9 a.m. it is Central African time. Very good morning to you. This is Newsroom. Office President is with me, as always, and Kena Mahamati is hiding in the back corner there. Of course, as always, a special welcome to all of those of you watching us, not just in South Africa, but on the continent and around the world, live. Special welcome to some of our, American viewers who are watching us via the streaming facility. Of course, you can watch us at any time via our live streaming facility. Until 12 o'clock today. That's when we will bring, we'll bring you the highlights from around the world. Now, our focus today, it's very specialized here in South Africa. We're looking at the 2016 annual Reed Dance ceremony taking place over the weekend at King Zwelithini Palace in Nongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, our question of the day relates to that. We ask you, how do you view the annual Reed Dance ceremony? If we can put that question up on screen today. Let us know on our Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. You can also go to our Facebook page where you can tell us what you think. Of course, lots of critics have views about the Reed Dance. Some say it doesn't belong in today's day and age, with being especially critical about things like virginity testing. How do you view the annual Reed Dance? Of course, festivities get underway tomorrow and will last well into the weekend. But there's lots of other news in the offing. Let's go to Elvis for our first update.
Thank you, Yevon. Now, first top story. State Security Agency analyst Busisiwe Maqabane has been approved by the National Assembly to become the new public protector, with only the DA voting against her. The University of KwaZulu-Natal's SRC say that they will be doing everything in their power to bring the people to book who set fires on campuses over the past 2 days. And the Zulu Royal House says all preparations are in place for this year's Reed Dance at Inyokeni Palace at Nongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makhamate what's happening on the sports front. A very good morning to you, Kendall.
Gents, a hearty good morning to the both of you. Big things afoot. I've got the US Tennis Open getting to the business end.
What did you ask you? I just saw a report about match fixing at the US Open.
At the US Open, we'll still have that going on there. It seems as if very interesting reports coming out there. Some irregular betting patterns are being noted about the US Open. I'll be bringing you some more about that a little later this morning. Good morning to you. Let's see what we've got for you in the sports today. Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee makes 4 key changes to his starting 15 to face Australia in the Rugby Championship this Saturday. And the 2016 Paralympic Games kick off with the opening ceremony at Rio de Janeiro's famous Maracanã Stadium.
And there you go.
Serena Williams moves a step closer to making history again as she edges Romanian Simona Halep in 3 sets at the US Open. All this as allegations of irregular batting surface. All this and more we've got for you later on the sports bulletin. Be sure to stick around for it. For now, it's back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. University of KwaZulu-Natal's SRC say they will be doing everything in their power to bring the people to book who set fires on campuses over the past 2 days. The institution says the damage caused amounts to tens of millions of rand.
Have been demanding a no-fee increment for next year. The protests have turned violent and property worth millions destroyed. Security is visible on all campuses.
We have lost millions of rands in the buildings that have been torched in the past 2 weeks. So where are we going to get the money?
Meanwhile, the situation remained calm on all campuses today. The damage during last night's fire still cordoned off. Students with disabilities whose residence was also torched have gone home. Student leaders condemn the destruction.
What they're doing is not only affecting us, the current students, it's affecting students that are coming. the students that we are fighting for, so that they can get the fruits.
The disruption has serious implications for many students. The university management says 51 students have been arrested since the unrest began. All of those arrested are in custody. Police say they will continue to maintain a strong presence at all university campuses. Simpiwe Makanya, SABC News, Durban.
Meanwhile, ANC Youth League has written an open letter to the Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande demanding that he urgently implement a zero-fee increase for tertiary institutions. The League Secretary-General Njabula Nzuza says that he is writing the letter because private meetings they have had with Nzimande are not bearing any fruit. Now, recent student protests have been marred by the torching of buildings and cars at the University of KwaZulu-Natal and disruptions of the free education inquiry in Cape Town this week. The League says that any fee increment will not be acceptable and should not even be considered or talked about. The League also says that free education for the poor is an African National Congress policy and is not up for debate but should be urgently implemented. They also want Nzimande to reduce meetings with vice-chancellors and spend more time with the students. It threatens not to tolerate what it calls tortoise velocity on these issues. Joining us now from our Pretoria studios in Pretoria is the Director General for the Department of Higher Education and Training, Kwabinkundla Konde. Mr. Konde, very good morning to you and welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you very much. Good morning and good morning to the listeners.
Now, DG, as a department, how do you view the destruction of property during protests, and are you going to bring to book all those responsible for these arson attacks?
The institution is attending to the matter in respect to its own code of conduct and what should actually happen when a person has involved himself or herself in criminal activities. And as a department, we condemn all forms of violence, destruction of property, harassment to human beings within institutions. And we condemn that in the strongest terms possible.
Now, as a department, what are you doing to ensure that the situation really is contained, especially what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal and other universities that will perhaps try to follow suit and copy what they've seen?
At the present moment, in respect to what is happening, officials of the department are there assisting in facilitating engagements and working out any possible solution with the institution which is directly affected at the present moment, that is UKZN. But the question then in respect to some of the demands, if you take the 0% increase, that demand doesn't arise at the present moment because the minister has just received a report from the Council on Higher Education in respect to the recommendations as to what should actually happen in 2017, upon which then the minister put this to the attention of all stakeholders, including student formations as well as civil society, as to what then they would like to see happening based on these recommendations. And then upon getting feedback from that collective wisdom, then the minister would make appropriate pronouncement after due consideration and engagement together with his colleagues in the processes of government. At the present moment, there hasn't been any pronouncement that has been made whatsoever.
There is no pronouncement, but the Youth League, the ANC Youth League, has written to the minister demanding that he urgently implement a zero-fee increase for tertiary institutions. Do you think that universities can really afford another zero-fee increase?
The first thing is that there has never been zero-fee increase. It's a wrong and incorrect narrative. Fees increased for 2014, that is for 2016. But the difference is that the costs then were borne by government for everybody, all students across the board within the system. Fees in respect to 2017 will increase. The question is who must absorb those costs. So I think the narrative that it's zero is incorrect. And I think the sooner we get this right, it would serve the system a great deal of stability and sustainability. Now, the question that is being looked at the present moment, what then happens in respect to the recommendations that are made by the Council on Higher Education? And those processes are ongoing, because it's important to consult quite extensively on a matter like this, because it's quite sensitive, it's quite crucial, insofar as the operations of institutions, as well as the plight of students, especially from poor families. Then the second thing of the open letter, I think the minister has met with the Youth League, including some other formations within and Progressive Youth Alliance, and also Education Alliance, and there is also sittings of the NEC Subcommittee on Education, where they are actually participating. And above all, they've got direct access to the minister, to him, for whatever issue they would like to raise. So the open channels in respect to what they would like the minister to hear from them, there are open channels in respect to that, including directly to the minister himself.
But in brief, DG, will there be an increase for 2017, yes or no?
There are consultations that are taking place at the present moment. And upon then feedback that would come from those processes, government will look into the matter and an appropriate pronouncement would be made.
Now, there is some talk about these professional students on campus that seem to be disturbing the processes and our universities as one of the reasons why there's so much violence on the campus. Do you agree with that, and is that a problem that you are foreseeing?
There are allegations that even there at UKZN, some of the people who are involved in these destructive practices are not students at all, let alone they are coming from another institution, but they are not students at all. We think the legitimate struggles of students have been infiltrated to some measure by criminal elements who want to rubbish the just cause that students are standing up for. And we are calling for vigilance from all quarters within our institutions against these rogue elements who seek to destabilize and destroy institutions. Because you can't explain as to what would be the basis of banning books, because there is no connection between free education or 0% increase and banning of books, because you need these books to advance your studies, to attain knowledge. It's in actual fact, it's anti-intellectualism, it's anti-scholarly, and it's against everything that a university exists for.
DG, I thank you so much for your time in joining us in our Pretoria studios at such short notice. That was the Director General for the Department of Higher Education and Training, Nkwabinkundla Konde. Now, on to our story for the day, or our theme for the day. The Zulu Royal House says that all preparations are in place for this year's Umkhosi Umhlanga, or the Reed Dance, at Inyokeni Palace at Nongoma in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Each year, the highly anticipated event is attended by thousands of girls from various parts of the continent. The young women will present their reeds to Zulu King Goodwill Zwelithini this weekend. Now, the Royal House spokesperson Prince Tulani Zulu says that various workshops will be held to educate the young women about careers available to them. He also reassured parents that enough police will be deployed to ensure the safety of the maidens. Prince Zulu say they are aware that there are people who have an intention of using and abusing alcohol. He said alcohol is not permitted, and authorities will be ensuring the safety of the maidens and the people. The law breaches will be prosecuted, he says. The 3-day program includes career expos that will expose the girls to possible career paths. That's a wonderful story, and that's our theme for today. Now, the question that we pose to you, of course, is going to be on your screen right now, and we're asking you that question in relation to the reed dance. What do you make of the reed dance that's taking place this year, 2016, and about that custom? It's a wonderful custom, a Zulu tradition. What do you make of it? But there's all sorts of controversies surrounding that. So, Eben, you will start that conversation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of those controversies, gender activists in and around South Africa have called it unconstitutional, and that virginity testing as such is should be unconstitutional. But let's go to Durban now, where the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation, Bongi Sithole Molloy, joins us. A very good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us today. Good morning to you and your viewers. I'd like to start, ma'am, with looking at the reed dance as a massive cultural event in KwaZulu-Natal and what it means for the people of KwaZulu-Natal. And also it's become a massive international tourist attraction now, hasn't it?
Yes, it has become a international tourist attraction because it has grown to a number that we have not anticipated. Each year it grows. Like last year it was about around 25,000 maiden that I attended, and we're anticipating this year it's going to be growing beyond 30,000 maiden that will be coming to present their wreaths before His Majesty the King. And people that attend, the VIPs and people from outside the province that attend, the number is growing year by year, and we still also expect this year that it will grow and increase beyond 30,000.
Now, for people who don't understand the reed dance, you can maybe explain the process to our viewers, and also tell us that it's not really only, it's open to all. There'll be people, maidens coming from America, from the UK, from Europe, and all races from South Africa will be attending.
Reed dance, because this one is a Zulu reed dance. We encourage all maidens who believe and who also are proud of being a Zulu maidens to come and be part of the reed dance this weekend, which is starting tomorrow with those that are not schooling, and on Friday the ones that are not schooling will present their wreaths, and on Saturday it's a main event where all the girls will come and present their wreaths before His Majesty King. They come in all districts of KwaZulu-Natal, 10 districts and the metro. We expect them to come and participate. We are also not discouraging, even if they are outside KwaZulu-Natal, they are also welcome to come and attend and also be part to this wonderful event.
Now, gender activists have focused on the reed dance, ma'am, and they've criticized it, specifically focusing on virginity testing. But virginity testing is only one element of the festival, isn't it?
It's one aspect of it, but what actually this reed dance is all about, it's bringing up our young girls how to conduct themselves and what they should anticipate when they're growing up, and also to give them information so that they protect themselves from other diseases that they can incur if they don't protect themselves and behave as young girls until there's such time that they are able to have a partner and get engaged in other activities that expose them to be married and be having their family and bring up their children in a proper manner, and also to tell them what are the values that are expected to a young girl and what standard is expected to a young girl to grow up and be able to face their life as they grow up.
What do you say to
Actually, it's also in...
Yeah, I was just wanted to ask
it's also
Let me just I just want to clear this one up because, we're asking our viewers the question and I want to ask you the question because some gender activists are criticizing the reed dance. They're calling it a patriarchal process and it infringes on the rights of the individual by the Constitution. As the MEC, how do you respond to that?
I believe that, yes, they have a right, but we also encourage that they are not forced. It's voluntarily. All girls that comes to read dance have done that voluntarily, not being forced to participate. But what we are saying that as MEC for Arts and Culture, I believe that if we go back and look at our cultures and learn the good things that our cultures has been preserving, where you bring up a young girl to be proud of herself, to have high self-esteem, not to be treated as a minor or something that is not important. But we are trying to instill that in the young women and the young girls that we are bringing together, and to share the good things that are happening around the area where they come from, and know that it's important that you keep yourself until such time that you get your partner and get married and have a family, and how to deal with growing a family and love your husband, and your husband should also love you. So we have a combination of it, bringing our culture, because family values are not instilled at school, but they are instilled at home, where we want to see these girls growing up to become strong women that will stand the test of time, where they're supposed to go and represent the country. They should go there with pride, knowing that they have confidence that we have instilled in them, that they are a full human being, not a minor or something that is representing someone else. So what is all about is about teaching them the values, the norms, the standard that the community expect, and the future that is coming, how they should hold themselves in the future, and how they should actually express themselves. We want them to be able to express. When they don't like something, they should say that without fear that they will be suppressed by anyone. I'm a woman. I can't be saying that let's expose young women to the life that is going to discriminate them, undermine them, and reduce them to people who have a feeling of that I should be under someone so that I can live. We are bringing the young girls to be proud, so that when they see us as leaders, they envy to be leaders in the future, knowing that we have given them the values why they should actually pull them together and do what is right at the time, until the certain time, because there are stages in life. You grow up, you become a girl, you become a young girl, you become a stage where you are now going to have a partner. All those stages must be taught to young girls so that they understand properly what is it that is expected of them and what the nation is expecting of them. And we are really proud when we see these young women, these young girls coming forward. And we say that actually the nation still has a future, because they are the future of this country. So whatever we are doing, if there is things that other people feel that it's not right, we are not closed. They must come and tell us what is it that is not right, and what is it that is against the rights and the constitution of our country, so that we correct such things, because I don't believe that cultures are totally out of the constitution and are also undermining the rights of anybody. But we're supposed actually to correct each other and say, no, this culture, if it's practiced in this manner, this is what actually it's breaching this clause of the constitution. Can we then do away with this one and put it in? But the good ones, I believe we could keep the good ones, because it's building this nation and bringing the nation together. If Read Dance can bring girls together and make them to see that they're important in the nation, and they're important that we love them and we take care of them, I don't believe that we should take that away from them. But if there are issues, because we have prepared this year very much with all the logistics that we are going to deal with it. As Umntwana Thulan was earlier on articulating, we have made sure that the transport that they are going to use has been inspected, and they have permit, and all the service providers, the transport companies have been given the direction, what is it that we expect from them. And anyone that found not have comply, we are not going to use that company in the future. We are also saying also to the district, the municipalities that are going to use the transport, they must ensure that they comply. Issues of alcohol, we ask the SAPS and MEC for Community Safety and Liaison, MEC Kaunda, we have spoken that he is going to ensure that there is visibility of policing in the area at Nyogeni Palace, so that we don't find people who come and harass these girls and people who bring alcohol to these girls, because we want to ensure that they are in a state that is acceptable for the girl and don't get these people influencing them.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask you in conclusion, I see specifically you banning alcohol this year. Is alcohol a problem at these kinds of festivals? And in the past, as you mentioned, there have been issues with transport and so forth. Does the two kind of go hand in hand with the trouble that we see?
At times you have to prevent something before it started. Because what we know is that when people, they get together, other people, they become mischievous and bring things that to ridicule the whole program that we are intending to encourage. Hence, we are saying that even though it was not prevalent that people were drinking alcohol, but we are saying that we don't want even it to come near these children, because we want them to know that alcohol is not allowed. And we're teaching them by saying that no alcohol in this event.
Thank you for joining us.
But for the transport, we are...
okay. Just finish, ma'am.
Yeah, I was saying that for transport, we had an incident in 2010 where a number of Median were involved in a bus which was not in a state that was acceptable. So we are preventing also that, because we don't want to see Medians, we don't want to lose them because of the transport. Hence where we're putting all these things. But we are not only just doing that. Whilst they will be there, we have put an educational tent there where they will going to be taught to apply for their higher learning institutes acceptance or admission, and also they will be taught about career opportunities that they can anticipate moving forward. Those that are doing grade 10, even those that are doing grade 11, we are also going to encourage them to participate in that tent. And also those that are now unemployed, there is a tent there that is going to assist them on pointing them to the direction that they can take. Go to FETs, or they must go to apply for employment. Those are the things that we are also in addition saying. And those that they can start their small businesses and corporates, we are also going to assist them, because there's a tents that are allocated to do that.
Ma'am, I thank you for joining us and talking succinctly about what is happening with the Reed dance. Yes, it is one of the festivals in South Africa. It's taking place over the weekend, starting tomorrow into the weekend, concludes on Sunday, when maidens from all around the province, KwaZulu-Natal, and the country, the world even, will be presenting their reeds to the Zulu King, Goodwill Zwelithini. Now, let's take a look at what's happening on social media at this very hour. Of course, the Public Protector. Now, we'll start there. Very much on everyone's lips at the moment. The National Assembly has approved State Security Agency analyst advocate Busisiwe Mgwebane to become the next Public Protector. Of course, the panel now awaits the final say or the ratification from President Jacob Zuma. Then the hashtag UKZN is still a hot topic, as many students and officials continue to condemn the arson attacks, especially the burning of the law library. This is a shocking picture that emerged from there that you see on screen right now. Then, Khulebuse Zuma, President Zuma's nephew, has started paying back, paying damages, 23 million rand, in fact, after mining liquidations at the Royal Mines. Then, in other news, Archbishop Desmond Tutu underwent surgery yesterday. His family says that the operation was a success and that the Arch is in good spirits today. In the world of sports, of course, last night was a glittering opening ceremony of the Paralympics. Yes, hashtag Rio Paralympics 2016. Our Sports Minister, Vigile Mbalula, was tweeting some wonderful pictures. He's also voiced his support for Team South Africa. Now for some international news, the burkini ban has been upheld by a court on the island of Corsica in France. Muslims will not be allowed to wear their traditional attire on the beaches in this area despite an international outcry. Now, of course, there you see an image of a burqa with a bikini design on it. Someone just having a bit of fun with the saga. Now, yesterday we asked you the question around the burning of more university building infrastructure and, of course, cars at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. We've had really literally lots and lots of response. We've just picked a few out. Devoya Johnson says, destroying property is never the way to making a statement. It only shows ignorance and disrespectful behaviour, which is sad in capital letters. Simpiwe Ntuli says, UKZN students are burning down the hope of success, and tomorrow they will be the ones moaning about the lack of resources, says Simpiwe. Zeus talks to those people who burn down schools are criminals and should be treated as such. No amount of anger justifies their actions. Simonile Matula says there is a thin line between being a revolutionary and a savage. We are fundis, the negotiators of the nation. And then Al Malachi says this issue of burning whatever, what's the root cause, I think? Empty promises and lies. The state must account to it. Word is dangerous. You can't burn down stuff because you feel there's a promise. Now, just to talk to the list of demands at the university, I've been told the list goes out to 70 demands that the students have listed or have noted down. Anyhow, we move on and we take a look at what's in the courts this morning. Now, we'll start in Krugersdorp, where the bail application of Tsepo Chauke. Tsepo Chauke, the man accused of murdering his girlfriend, Ayanda Zwane, after an argument at the Pretoria home is set to take place. He allegedly put her body in the boot of a car, drove to a Krugersdorp garage and set the car alight. We'll keep you updated on that case as it develops. We're going to take a short commercial break. Newsroom will be back with more shortly.
He appealed for the disruptions to come to an end so the future of the children is not compromised.
The union said the latest offer by Eskom will condemn its members to poverty.
Samples from the 2012 London Olympic Games and 2014 Sochi Winter Games will also be retested.
Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
Now this weekend, all roads lead to northern KwaZulu-Natal for the annual traditional ceremony, commonly known as the Reed Dance or Mkhosi Womhlanga. Thousands of maidens from all over South Africa, neighboring countries and even from abroad will grace the century-old tradition, which is the pride of the Zulu nation. The three-day ceremony kicks off tomorrow and will run up to Sunday at the Nyokeni Palace in Ngoma in Zululand. The Zulu monarch will deliver a keynote address at the ceremony. Now, to talk to us about the importance of the Reed dance in the Zulu culture, we are joined by the head of African languages at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Professor Sahau Ngubane. Professor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning to you, sir.
So first and foremost, take us through about the significance of the reed dance in the Zulu nation and in their culture.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and explain or talk about the significance of Umkhosi Womhlanga. Umkhosi Womhlanga is one of the ceremonies that the Zulu nation celebrates every year around September, since we know that September is the Heritage Month. So this is why it has been pronounced that during this month of Heritage, then we will celebrate our maidens and the pride of the nation. It's a very significant cultural event which started way back in 1930 by King Dinizulu Solomon. And it wasn't starting here because apparently when we go deep to the history, the reed dance ceremony started in the Republic of Congo, where we are supposed to have migrated from, because as we are here on this part of the world, we came from somewhere to be here. So we brought along some of the ceremonies that describes us who we are. So it is very important to know that one of these ceremonies, such as Umhlanga, we have Umkhosi Wensizwa, where the regiments are announced. We've got Umkhosi Wogweshwama, the first crop ceremony, and we have Umkhosi Womhlanga. There are quite a number of them, but this Umhlanga has taken a stride because it is a symbol of purity. It is the pride for the nation and the pride of the women of the Zulu nation. So this is where they showcase their virginity, and that makes them proud that they have kept themselves all the years up to this stage. And it is also significant for delaying sexual activism, because it teaches our children how to behave. It teaches our children how to handle themselves, how to discipline themselves, because we don't have forums or avenues where the human values are taught. We don't even have our saying of air that there is a gap where some of us who grew up in our time went to Sunday school where they were taught values. And at this point in time, we don't have forums where human values and African values can be taught. And it is part of our heritage because it was transferred from our generation to this current generation. That is why it is significant for showcasing our pride, and it is also important for social cohesion. We have been advocating for social cohesion in a different way, but now this is one way of bringing people together with one purpose of celebrating. So it is a cultural celebration.
Now, what happens at the reed dance? We understand there's a lot of education given to the girls behind the scene, because people only look at the reed dance in isolation. Is that correct? And can you take us through that?
I think the reed dance ceremony provides an opportunity for the young girls or the maidens to be addressed by His Majesty. It is the opportunity for His Majesty to teach the importance of Zulu culture to the girls. And it's a very exciting occasion, because some of them have never been close to His Majesty, and they have listened to negativity about His Majesty. But this event gives them opportunity to realize that they are being honored, they are being recognized, and they are being awarded and commended for well behaving. That is the main significance, because he gives them a full lecture. Sometimes it takes an hour or 2 hours, and this is the climax of the event, which will educate the young women in how they should behave. And some of them have been through this process, and now they've become something of importance to the community and to the whole Zulu nation.
Who is eligible to participate in the event, Professor?
Any young girl who is not married from the ages of 12, because we find that our children get pregnant at the age of 10. So I think it is ideal that young girls of 16 years upwards attend the ceremony. And the eligibility is that they must be virgins. That is why the virginity testing takes place prior the ceremony. And girls that attend are those girls who have undertaken this test on numerous occasions. It's not a once-off, because when you start at 12 doing virginity testing, it prepares you to discipline yourself for this big day of meeting His Majesty. And if you are above 35 years and you are unmarried, you are still eligible to attend.
Now, talking about virginity testing, that has attracted a lot of attention, especially from women activists. How do we then strike that balance between culture and constitutional and human rights, Professor?
The Human Rights and Bill of Rights promotes the right to enjoy and practice one's culture. So this is one event where the Zulu nation practices their culture, and virginity testing is protecting our precious women, because women are very close to the heart of any parent, everywhere, anywhere. So the virginity testing is educating the young girls to discipline themselves, to hold on to some of the things that they must wait until they enjoy it. Because sometimes you find that young girls will start doing things that they're not supposed to do at their age, because some physiology do not allow them to do some of the things. Like you find that people embark on drugs and their body and their system are not ready. That's why we have social ills in our country, because people rush to do things before their time. Usually at the age of 21, that's where there is this rite of passage called umemulo. That's where a girl is thanked for well behaving and taking care of herself from birth to the age of 21. So virginity testing is something normal, and it is voluntarily. It is the parents who send their children to be tested.
Yes.
And also, as a ritual, as I said earlier, the umhlanga is a prayer, is a ritual that is observed and has been observed by the Zulu nation over many years. And I know that it stopped being practiced in 1950, and then it was resurrected in 1991. So it is not something that is done for umkhosi womhlanga, but it's a long-term process to protect these young girls. And yes, I do understand the debate that it's a violation of rights, but also rights of individuals must be respected.
Yes. Now, critics of the reed dance, Professor, also suggest that young girls are abused and demeaned for participating in the reed dance. Do you agree with this notion, or would you pin this down to cultural knowledge bankruptcy?
Yeah, you put it rightly. It's cultural knowledge bankruptcy. I think the whole issue is that we are dealing with human beings, and human beings cannot be predicted. There are people who have negativity, and whenever there is something that is beautiful and is significant for the nation, they will try to bring their negative attitude to spoil the good thing.
And then just briefly,
it happens and it can't be prevented, but I think the government officials take care of these situations where they will ensure that these girls are safe when they come and attend. But we can't say it won't happen. It does happen, some few incidences that take place there, because when you bring many people, you can expect anything to happen.
Yes. Professor, I thank you so much for your time, for joining us in our Durban studios. But before you go, Professor, we understand that you're also the Deputy Dean of Undergraduate Studies in the Faculty of Humanities, Development and Social Sciences at Howard College campus. Can you just give us briefly what happened there at that particular building that was burned down there?
Yeah, the incident is very unfortunate, and as I said in the discussion, that we need to have a responsible young people. And what has happened there, it was very unfortunate that the law library, with a very scarce resources, was burnt down. And it is through criminalism and selfishness that people destroy a long-term resource for the future generation just for their selfish reason. We don't condemn the act of voicing out your anger, but not in a violent manner that will destroy something that belongs to you. When we grew up as students, we used to do the same, and that time the environment was different because we're fighting a legacy of apartheid. Now that we own these properties, it's like a child burning his or her parents' home. It's just a ridiculous act that is unfortunate.
Professor, I thank you once again for your time. That was Professor Shehawu Ngubane, who is also the Deputy Dean of Undergraduate Studies in the Faculty of Humanities, Development and Social Sciences at Howard College, giving us his take on the Reed dance. Well, we're going to ask you that question, of course, today relating to the Reed dance. Of course, it's happening this coming weekend. We'd like to find out from you, how do you view the annual Reed dance that will take place? You can let us know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. But right now it's over to Eben to find out if there's any comments in relation to that. A very good morning to Eben. Oh, in fact, we have another interview before you go to the comments.
No,
right?
Let's go to the comments. Let's just have a quick idea what you guys are sending in to us. Let's see what are some of the tweets coming in with regards to the question. Of course, the Reed dance starts tomorrow, lasts into the weekend. Unati says, Newsroom, I see it as a good thing because these girls are shown the right directions. Talking about the hashtag Reed dance. Yes, that's what it's all about. Lechasa says, I'm really inspired by the Zulu nation, but why can't they cover their breasts? I'm asking if this can be taken into consideration. Lechasa, you can show your breasts. Why can't women show their breasts? We are living in the 21st century, my brother. Let's now take a look at what's on our Facebook page quickly. Of course, the rand retreated against the dollar after the previous day's strong gains. If you go to our Facebook page, you'll see that Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, he hinted that political uncertainty could undermine growth this year. Then, Amnesty International has called on Zimbabwean authorities to respect the latest court ruling and to allow public demonstrations in the country. This after High Court overturned a police ban on anti-government protests in the Harare city centre. Finally, Apple Inc. unveiled its new water and dust-resistant iPhone 7 with high-resolution cameras at its fall product event yesterday. And said a Super Mario game was coming to the new phone. Also, Pokemon Go would feature on its upgraded Apple Watch. Very interesting. If you're a Pokemon Go player, I'm not. Anyhow, we're going to take... Are we taking a short break? Are we taking a look Taking a quick look at the newspapers, that's the headlines from around the globe. We start in the United Kingdom. The Guardian reports that the government's social mobility tsar has warned that expanding the current grammar school system would be a disaster a day after it emerged. Theresa May was considering this idea. Then, in Israel, the Jerusalem Post says police yesterday arrested Netanya Mayor Miriam Fairberg-Ikar on suspected bribery charges involving multi-million-dollar real estate deals in her city. Then in New York, the Wall Street Journal reports that Hanjin Shipping's financial and legal troubles have left as much as $14 billion worth of cargo stranded at sea, sending owners scrambling to try and recover their goods. Well, now for the good news. Tiger Woods is coming back. Some of the naysayers, some of the doubters said he never will. The 14 times major winner has announced that he is to compete beginning of next month at the PGA Tour's Safeway Open, Kendall.
Yep.
Now, he's got 3 dates before the end of the year and a couple of appearances. Isn't it great news for golf, is it?
Absolutely. Considering this man at one stage was like world #1 for close to 700 weeks. The world of golf has missed him, and it's really good that he is recovering well enough from his multiple back surgeries to actually be able to say, look, I'm looking forward to playing 3 tournaments before the end of the year.
I tell you what's going to happen. The ratings are going to shoot sky high because every time Tiger Woods comes back, people want to watch. That's what it's about in the end. People want to watch Tiger Woods despite all the indiscretions and the like. They love the guy.
That's in the past. His prowess on the golf course is what people should be focusing on.
Absolutely. What else are we talking about? We're talking about the box.
We also have the box that are going to be playing in Brisbane over the weekend against Australia, Rugby Championship, both under the cosh, both coaches Checker and Alistair Coetzee under the cosh because of their so-so performances. Well, less so for Alistair than for Checker, but Alistair's made 4 massive changes. The centre pairing has changed. He's taken Lionel Mapo and Damon Diende off and put in Elton, not Elton, he's put in Jean de Jong and Jesse Creel.
What about the captain? The captain's in the front row, but he's retired now. Shouldn't we be thinking about maybe...
One of the reasons why I think he might have put Juan de Jong in, as you know, Juan de Jong was one of his co-captain, was one of the co-captains most recently here in the Super Rugby season. So for the Stormers, it might well be that he might be grooming him or Warren Whiteley to take over.
He's bringing Francois Hougaard back on the wing, a man who's played in 15s only as a scrum-off in the last couple of years. What does it say about the other wingers in the country?
I don't know what it says about them, but I do know that it says a lot more about how much value he places in the versatility that Francois Hougaard brings, scrummy as well as on the wing, which means that he can actually stick with his 6-2 split between on the bench.
And the other change comes in?
It comes in at tighted prop. Vincent Koch is off. Lourdes Adriaanse comes in again. And then you've got to remember that Ruan Kombrink, I think he got an injury, and that's one of the reasons.
His leg.
Yeah, that's why Francois is in that space. He's actually taken over there. Habana moves over to the other wing.
Well, that's the sports update for now. Tsetse Monare is standing by to bring us the weather.
Welcome from the weather desk. So it is quite a hot day here in Johannesburg and most parts of the northern interior of South Africa. We are expecting possibilities of hot and dry conditions to continue for 2-3 days, and those could also lead to possibilities of veld fires. And then in terms of rainfall, we're seeing a bit of showers towards the Western Cape and over the Eastern Cape province between today and tomorrow. But then by tomorrow it spreads into the central parts, maybe Bloemfontein and the southern parts of the Free State should expect a bit of rain. If you're heading to Madagascar, also expect rain along the coastal parts. So over the east coast and going towards the northern regions, that's where you should expect a bit of rain. Temperature-wise, it's quite hot for the northern parts. 36 for Musina, that's what's coming through. We jump straight into summer along those parts. Limpopo province has basically no respect for seasonal changes there. It is going to be quite hot. 36 for Gaborone as well. Pretoria is at 33, but Western Cape, cool weather. They're still experiencing winter basically there. We've seen more cold fronts there in the last 2-3 weeks than we've seen basically in the whole of winter. So yeah, it is quite a bit of a change along the Western Cape. Yeah, it's getting quite gloomy and rainy. And also now we're seeing good rains also coming in towards DRC as well as over Cameroon, moving towards West Africa over the central parts. And temperatures are expected to remain just normal along those parts. Nothing really out of the ordinary here. Kigali 28, Brazzaville 34, Libreville also staying the same, including Luanda 27, Lilongwe also 27. Good news for Lilongwe is that, for Lusaka rather, that it's going to be quite sunny. Lilongwe will be sunny for the morning, but mostly cloudy later on into the evening. Dry weather for the Sahara Desert and much of North Africa. Also nothing here, no rainfall. It looks like there'll be a bit of cloud here and there, but it's going to be just sunny. It's going to be hot. Tripoli 29, Benghazi also really hot at 34. For all those going to Dubai, expect a maximum of 43. And rainy weather for Conakry, Abidjan and Lagos over West Africa. Rain is only coming in along the coastal cities. And you'll also see temperatures are expected to be quite high for N'Djamena at 39 degrees. That's it for the weather. Stay tuned. There'll be more later.
And poverty did not deter Mpumi's success.
Being an orphan or coming from poverty or having seen what HIV and AIDS does to a person that you love takes nothing away from you. It means that you are part of a selective few who have had to face a very, very marginalized struggle.
Abuse is a lonely journey that needs compassion.
I came across as a very confident, ambitious person, but behind that mask was somebody who had serious anxiety problems, a person who had knots in their stomach continuously, a person who could be in company and would feel very lonely.
Being away from his birth country did not stop his hunger to succeed.
Boxing was the way out. Turning professional would give me an income. That was the solution to the problems I've had for so many years.
For more inspiring stories, join Bupulong every Friday at 17:30.
It's just gone 10 a.m. Central African time on this Thursday, the 8th of September. Rene West has just joined us here in studio. Very good morning. I'm Evan Jansen if you've just joined us now. Don't forget, we're also live on YouTube right now. You can watch us anywhere in the world at any time. Now, our focus, of course, today, well, our focus we've been dealing with in the first hour is the annual Reed Dance ceremony taking place over the weekend at the King's Wellatini Palace in Nongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. Second hour, this hour, we'll look into the practice of female genital mutilation. But our question of the day, of course, still deals with your views on the annual Reed Dance ceremony. Lots of varying views around this. Gender activists say, oh, they don't think it's a proper practice in this world. Of course, we heard from all the relevant stakeholders a little bit earlier. We'd like to hear from you. Let's take a look at some of your tweets that you've been sending in with regards to the Reed Dance 2016 that kicks off tomorrow and that will continue into the weekend. There we go. Lechasa talks about, I'm really inspired by the Zulu Nation, but why can't they cover their breasts? I'm asking if this can be taken into consideration, he says.
This one coming in from Unati, he says, I see it as a good thing because these girls are shown the right direction.
Yep, and that's what the stakeholders, including the MEC and the professor, told us a little bit earlier. It's similar to Sunday school. It's about understanding your culture. It's about understanding your body. And it's about being taught how to behave. It's as simple as that. You're watching Newsroom. Let's get the headlines now on Rene West.
State Security Agency analyst Busisiwe Mkwebane has been approved by the National Assembly to become the new public protector, with only the DA voting against her. The University of KwaZulu-Natal's SRC says they will be doing everything in their power to bring the people to book who set fires on campuses over the past 2 days. And the Zulu Royal House says all preparations are in place for this year's Reed Dance at Enyokeni Palace at Nongoma in the northern KwaZulu-Natal. Well, before we get to that news, let's go over to Kendall, who has your sports update.
Thank you very much, Renee, and good morning to you. Good morning to you, even as well as everybody at home as well. This is what we have for you in the sports today. Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee makes 4 key changes to his starting 15. That's to face Australia in the Rugby Championship this coming Saturday. And the 2016 Paralympic Games kick off with the opening ceremony at Rio de Janeiro's famous Maracanã Stadium.
And there you go.
Serena Williams moves a step closer to making history again as she edges Romanian Simona Halep in 3 sets at the US Open. All this as allegations of irregular betting surface. All this and more I've got for you later on in the sports bulletin at about 10:40. Be sure to stick around for it. But for now, Rene West has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. The University of KwaZulu-Natal's SRC says they will be doing everything in their power to ensure that those responsible for setting fire to public property on campus grounds will face the full might of the law. The institution says damage caused amounts to tens of millions of rands.
Students have been demanding a no-fee increment for next year. The protests have turned violent and property worth millions destroyed. It remains visible on all campuses.
We have lost millions of rands in the buildings that have been torched in the past 2 weeks. So where are we going to get the money?
Meanwhile, the situation remained calm on all campuses today. The damage during last night's fire still cordoned off. Students with disabilities whose residence was also torched have gone home. Student leaders condemn the destruction.
What they're doing is not only affecting us, the current students, it's affecting students that are coming. The students that we are fighting for, so that they can get the fruits.
The disruption has serious implications for many students. The university management says 51 students have been arrested since the unrest began. All of those arrested are in custody. Police say they will continue to maintain a strong presence at all university campuses. Simpiwe Makanya, SABC News, Durban.
Meanwhile, ANC Youth League has written an open letter to Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande demanding that he urgently implement a zero-fee increase for tertiary institutions. League Secretary General Njabulo Nzuza says he is writing the letter because private meetings they've had with Nzimande are not bearing fruit. Recent student protests have been marred by the torching of buildings and cars at the University of KwaZulu-Natal and disruptions of the free education inquiry in Cape Town this week. The League says any fee increment will not be acceptable and should not even be considered or spoken about. The League also says free education for the poor is an ANC policy and is not up for debate but should be urgently implemented. They also want Nzimande to reduce meetings with the vice-chancellors and spend more time with the students. It threatens not to tolerate what it calls tortoise velocity on these issues. Earlier in our Pretoria studios, we spoke to Director General for the Department of Higher Education and Training, Kwabenkundla Nqonde, and this is what he had to say about the burning of property.
The institution is attending to the matter in respect to its own code of conduct and what should actually happen when a person has involved himself or herself in criminal activities. And as a department, we condemn all forms of violence, destruction of property, harassment to human beings within institutions. And we condemn that in the strongest terms possible.
Now, as a department, what are you doing to ensure that the situation really is contained, especially what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal and other universities that would perhaps try to follow suit and copy what they've seen?
At the present moment, in respect to what is happening, officials of the department are there assisting in facilitating engagements and working out any possible solution with the institution which is directly affected at the present moment, that is UKZN. But the question then in respect to some of the demands, if you take the 0% increase, that demand doesn't arise at the present moment because the minister has just received a report from the Council on Higher Education in respect to the recommendations as to what should actually happen in 2017, upon which then the minister put this to the attention of all stakeholders, including student formations as well as civil society, as to what then they would like to see happening based on these recommendations. And then upon getting feedback from that collective wisdom, then the minister would make appropriate pronouncement after due consideration and engagement together with his colleagues in the processes of government. At the present moment, there hasn't been any pronouncement that has been made whatsoever.
There is no pronouncement, but the Youth League, the ANC Youth League, has written to the minister demanding that he urgently implement a zero-fee increase for tertiary institutions. Do you think that universities can really afford another zero-fee increase?
The first thing is that there has never been zero-fee increase. It's a wrong and incorrect narrative. Fees increased for 2014, that is for 2016. But the difference is that the costs then were borne by government for everybody, all students across the board within the system. Fees in respect to 2017 will increase. The question is who must absorb those costs? So I think the narrative that it's zero is incorrect. And I think the sooner we get this right, it would serve the system a great deal of stability and sustainability. Now, the question that is being looked at the present moment, what then happens in respect to the recommendations that are made by the Council on Higher Education? And those processes are ongoing because it's important to consult quite extensively on a matter like this because it's quite sensitive, it's quite crucial insofar as the operations of institutions as well as the plight of students, especially from poor families. Then the second thing of the open letter, I think the minister has met with the Youth League, including some other formations within and Progressive Youth Alliance and also Education Alliance, and there is also sittings of the NEC subcommittee on education where they are actually participating. And above all, they've got direct access to the minister, to him for whatever issue they would like to raise. So the open channels in respect to what they would like the minister to hear from them, there are open channels in respect to that, including directly to the minister himself.
But in brief, DG, will there be an increase for 2017, yes or no?
There are consultations that are taking place at the present moment. And upon then feedback that would come from those processes, government will look into the matter and an appropriate pronouncement would be made.
Now, there is some talk about these professional students on campus that seem to be disturbing the processes and our universities as one of the reasons why there's so much violence on the campus. Do you agree with that, and is that a problem that you are foreseeing?
There are allegations that even there at UKZN, some of the people who are involved in these destructive practices are not students at all, let alone they are coming from another institution, but they are not students at all. We think the legitimate struggles of students have been infiltrated to some measure by criminal elements who want to rubbish the just cause that students are standing up for. And we are calling for vigilance from all quarters within our institutions against these rogue elements who seek to destabilize and destroy institutions. Because you can't explain as to what would be the basis of banning books, because there is no connection between free education or 0% increase and banning of books, because you need these books to advance your studies, to attain knowledge. It's in actual fact, it's anti-intellectualism, it's anti-scholarly, and it's against everything that a university exists for.
Trade union Nahawu in Parliament plan to go on a full-blown strike from today. This is in response to threats by Parliament to deduct the salaries of staff members who were on strike before the end of last year. Nahawu chairperson in Parliament, Stembiso Tsembe, confirmed that the Secretary to Parliament, Ngezi Mgidlana, sent a memorandum saying money should be deducted from their salaries. This is in accordance with the no work, no pay policy. Meanwhile, Parliament spokesperson Luzuko Jacobs says Parliament has not received any formal notification of the planned action by Nahawu. Jacobs has emphasized that parliamentary services are regarded as essential services and any strike would be regarded as illegal. There you can see some live visuals outside of Parliament. Right, let's go over to Eben, who will continue the discussion of the day.
Yeah, thank you. We're moving our focus now from the reed dance, and in the second hour we look at, well, a different cultural practice, namely female genital mutilation. Now, listen to this number. More than 200 million girls and women alive today have undergone female genital mutilation around the world. This according to a report compiled by the World Health Organization. Now, the WHO report goes on to say that 300,000 more girls face the risk of undergoing female genital mutilation every single year. The World Health Organization defines female genital mutilation as the practice or tradition of partially or totally removing the external genitalia of girls and young women for non-medical reasons. Now, Dr. Kevin Behrens from the Steve Biko Center for Bioethics School of Clinical Medicine at the University of the Witwatersrand joins us in the studio to talk about his research on the subject. Very good morning to you, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Morning.
Just if you can give us a quick overview, I think, for those who don't know, what is female genital mutilation and how prevalent is it maybe around the world?
So it usually refers to surgeries, traditional surgeries that are performed on women and sometimes very young girls, in which parts of the female genitalia are removed or affected in some way. They can be very minor, they can be pricking and sort of minor incisions, but there can also be more serious surgeries, for instance, clitoridectomy, where the whole clitoris is removed. And then there's also infibulation, which is probably the most serious form, and that is where basically after cutting, the vagina is sewn closed, leaving just a very small hole for urination.
And the prevalence of it, how prevalent is it on the continent? Which are the countries where it's being practiced, and what's the situation here in South Africa?
Okay, so there's a band of countries sort of across Central and further Northern Africa on this continent in which it is practiced. It varies from country to country. Some countries prevalence is up to 96%, and in some countries it's quite small. In South Africa, officially we would say that it doesn't really happen here, but of course there are always situations where you could have migrants from other countries coming into the country, and the practice could happen in those communities.
Now, you pointed out, is the practice the same in every country, or does it vary from region to region?
So the practice does vary very much from region to region. And of course that's what makes it very difficult to talk about very generically, because there's going to be a difference in terms of what we need to be worried about with a very minor incision compared to, for instance, an infibulation, which might be done using very, very primitive tools, for instance, which could lead to infections and all kinds of serious
And what's
harm.
the cultural belief system then behind it? And some of it's religion. There are some Islamic sects in, I think, Northern Africa, parts of Northern Africa that have beliefs around it. But what's the overall belief system behind it?
Again, I think it varies. But most of us who've looked into it think that underlying it, there certainly is some sense in which it's about controlling women's bodies and controlling female sexuality, that seems to be what underlies it. And yet when you speak to communities in which it happens, often the people who are most in favor of continuing the practice are women themselves who have been through it themselves, and they very often are the ones who are the practitioners who perform these surgeries on the next generation of girls. So it becomes quite complex to work out, why are women choosing to put themselves in a position in which their health is threatened in this sort of way and their well-being. So, it has a great deal to do with sort of power relationships in communities, I think.
Yeah, power and control, one would think. Medically, how safe is this practice? And again, you point out it's difficult to talk about it generically, but it seems as often it's quite a primitive process.
So I think the dangers are obviously going to increase in situations in which the surgery is performed by traditional people who do not necessarily have any proper surgical skills, the kind of instruments that are used, the environment and how surgically safe the environment is, whether or not there's any antiseptic around or is used in any sort of way. And then also the severity of the actual surgery itself. So when there's deep cutting, for instance, the chances of there being serious damage afterwards would increase. And then there are also longer-term problems that people who've been through these things experience, problems, difficulty with voiding, difficulty in sexual relations, difficulty giving birth, hemorrhaging and bleeding that can continue for a long time.
And if you had to point, you've mentioned a few kind of areas, but which are the hotspots? 96% is a number that kind of popped out. Where are the hotspots, and what's the sort of belief system behind that?
The country that's normally fingered as the country with the highest prevalence is Egypt. But the interesting thing is that now about half of the countries in Africa have actually banned the process altogether. Last year we had 2 new countries. It was the Gambia and Nigeria who've banned it. It is banned in Egypt. In a lot of the countries where it is most prevalent, it is actually against the law, but it shows that changing the law doesn't necessarily change practice.
We're talking about the Maputo Protocol that was implemented. Talk to us a little bit about the Maputo Protocol and what is the thinking that activists or advocated when they put this forward.
So I think there is general agreement amongst people who sort of believe in human rights that this is a practice which cannot be justified just on the basis of culture, especially the serious forms of it. And that, we know enough about people's well-being to know that this is really, really harmful, psychologically, physically, and in all sorts of other ways. And we can't justify it purely on the grounds that it's just been around for a long time. So I think the general agreement both in Africa, in the AU, as well as in the United Nations generally, is that it is a practice that does need to be stopped. And that, if it's are in place to do so, one of the Millennium Development Goals, the new sustainability goals focuses specifically on it. So there is definitely, the aim is to try to stop the practice altogether over time. But as I say, there can even be disadvantages of making it illegal, because then it goes underground. Then if a person has been hurt or harmed in some way and needs medical treatment, they often won't be taken to a doctor because there's fear that people will be in trouble with the law. So it's, these situations are really complex and they have to be handled with sensitivity. But there also is hope that we might be able to see the end of this in the future. There was a time in which Chinese foot binding and the breaking of feet of women was standard practice in some communities, and now it's virtually completely eradicated, so it is possible.
And finally, the initial reaction to some of the campaigns that are being out there. I know the UN's got a campaign, and you mentioned some of the others. What's the reaction again, we speak in general, what's been the general reaction so far?
I think there's widespread agreement generally in many parts of the world that this is a practice that really should not be allowed to continue. The places, obviously, where there will be resistance are the places in which it is part of people's culture. And there you can understand that people want the feeling of their culture being respected, and especially on this continent in which cultures were denigrated for such a long time. One can understand people holding on to their cultural values and practices. But where they are as harmful as this sort of practice can be, it is hard to justify them.
Dr. Behrens, thank you for joining us today. Dr. Kevin Behrens is from the Steve Biko Center for Bioethics, the School of Clinical Medicine here at Wits University in Johannesburg. Of course, we've been talking about female genital mutilation for the last 6, 7, 8 minutes or so. Of course, we've asked you a little bit earlier the question as how do you view the annual Read Dance. Let's just take a look again at what are you tweeting us at this moment. Thank you very much, Dr. Behrens, for coming in today. Let's take a look at some of the tweets. What are you guys saying with regards to... Do we have those tweets up? Thank you. There we go. IH Nazo says, Newsroom, the practice gives respect to a girl child and saves our nation. What I saw last year made me cry. Young girls, children, drunk. Now, that's from Iko Nanazo, who talks about drunkenness and so forth. Of course, alcohol is being banned. We can tell you, spoke a little bit earlier to the MEC for Cultural Affairs down in KwaZulu-Natal, says alcohol will be strictly banned at the festivities. That's a redance festivities this year. Redance kicks off tomorrow, Saturday, carries on into the weekend. Of course, right now we're talking about female genital mutilation. Now, in 2003, the African Union adopted the Maputo Protocol, which promotes the rights of women in Africa and to condemn the process of female genital mutilation across the continent. And in South Africa, the Pretoria University Centre for Human Rights is steadfast and in the forefront of promoting equal rights for women and has taken a stance against the practice of female genital mutilation in this country and around the continent. Now, to find out how the centre fights against FGM, we are joined in our Pretoria studio, that is, by Patience Mpani, who is the Gender Unit Manager at the University of Pretoria Centre for Human Rights. Patience, thank you very much for joining us today. It's gone black. But it's gone black, unfortunately. Let's take a short commercial break. Hopefully when we come back, Patience will be back with us. See you shortly.
We tell you about Africa's social media and technology landscape.
21st century economies rely on technology to truly thrive.
We have quite a comprehensive portfolio of interventions in the tech entrepreneurship space.
And Africans are using tech and social media to solve the continent's unique challenges.
App Nigeria is an online marketplace.
Radio Vibe is a social media platform for radio music.
That's Network with me, Pumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Now, this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refill Wemwilo.
I'm Dr. Selom Daung, and this is Health Talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumile Matez.
My name
is Mpho. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Now, in 2003, the African Union adopted the Maputo Protocol, which promotes the rights of women in Africa and to condemn the female genital mutilation process across the continent. Here in South Africa, the Pretoria University Centre for Human Rights is steadfast and in the forefront of promoting equal rights for women and has taken a stance against female genital mutilation here in this country and also around the continent. Now, to find out how the centre fights against FGM, we are joined now in studio, as you saw a little bit earlier, by Patience Mpani, who is the Gender Unit Manager at the University of Pretoria Centre for Human Rights. Good morning, Patience. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Just give us a quick idea. How do you guys fight against such a deeply rooted cultural practice as female genital mutilation?
So our work at the Center for Human Rights is really around promoting the implementation of the Maputo Protocol and also supporting the work of the Special Rapporteur on Women's Rights as she works on her mandate to ensure the rights of women in Africa. And as you know, the Maputo Protocol explicitly condemns and urges state parties to ban female genital mutilation. So in our work popularizing the Maputo Protocol and also advancing the rights of women, we hope that in that regard we'll be able to end female genital mutilation.
Talk to us a little bit about the practice. Where is it most prevalent in your estimation, in your research around the African continent at the moment?
So in the African continent, we tend to find that female genital mutilation is more common in the western regions, as well as coming down to East Africa. So countries such as Ethiopia, Egypt, Nigeria, Sudan, Senegal, Tanzania, and Kenya in the east are some of the countries that practice female genital mutilation. But we also know that female genital mutilation sometimes is practiced very secretively in other countries in the world.
And as the Center for Human Rights, how do you view this practice?
So we believe that this practice has no medical gain for the women, and so it is harmful in its nature to women. It has long-lasting consequences that go beyond just the physical pain of the procedure, the anxiety and the depression that comes sometimes with the procedure. But we also know that going forward in life, women suffer from incontinence, urine incontinence. They suffer from complications during childbirth. They also sometimes catch infections if sterile equipment is used. They also, in the long run, have psychosocial and psychosexual problems that are as a result of the female genital mutilation process. And so we condemn it, and we believe that this procedure should be eliminated on the continent.
Now, the Maputo Protocol is a wonderful document to help curb these kinds of practices. But how does the Maputo Protocol actually help in practice?
Okay, so the Maputo Protocol is sometimes referred to as the African Protocol. So it is the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights that deals specifically with women's rights. And in this protocol, the protocol explicitly condemns female genital mutilation. It acknowledges that female genital mutilation is a harmful practice and that it should be discontinued. So what it does, it obligates state parties who had ratified the Maputo Protocol to prohibit through legislative measures and other measures the practice of female genital mutilation in their countries. It also obligates state parties to also do community sensitization and awareness raising on the harmful nature of female genital mutilation within their countries. Additionally, it also calls for the protection of young women and girls who are seen to be at most risk of becoming victims of such a practice. And then additionally, it also calls for states to provide support to women who have been victims of female genital mutilation. So basic services such as their healthcare needs. It also it provides that they should have some kind of legal recourse, and also that they should also have recourse in terms of psychosocial support, such as counseling services, so that they can continue with life in a better manner.
Patience, there's always a threat with this kind of thing. If you fight against it, there's always a threat of it going underground and becoming even more dangerous. How do you overcome that?
So certainly the threat of it going underground is huge, especially when you think that the continuation of this practice is rooted in identity construction and also cultural preservation. So communities do indeed want to continue with cultures that they've practiced over time. And also what happens with female genital mutilation is that in some instances it's seen as a rite of passage. So for example, for a young girl to be recognized as a young woman, they need to go through this process, or for them to be recognized as marriageable, able to get married, they need to go through these processes. So you find that communities will place a certain value on such kind of cultural practices. But once you start educating communities around the dangers and the challenges of continuing with such a practice, then you are allowing them to be able to make informed decisions around the discontinuation of such a practice. Sometimes it's insufficient knowledge that perpetuates certain cultures in the community. So our belief is that if we educate, if we do awareness-raising campaigns so that people are aware of the dangers, and also that people realize that it indeed is a violation of the rights of children and the rights of women, that women and children should be able to consent to such an activity before it happens, because in many of the cases this happens without informed consent on the people that are being mutilated in this way.
Patience, thank you for joining us. It's a very concerning practice. Patience Mpani is the Gender Unit Manager at the University of Pretoria's Centre for Human Rights. We've been talking about female genital mutilation, the practice across the African continent, where in some of the worst instances, well, the clitoris is removed and so forth. Rather concerning. Anyhow, let's take a look at the headlines on the continent right now. We'll start in Angola, actually. We'll go to Angola, where the Jornal de Angola reports that domestic workers in Angola are, as from next year, January, to enjoy the rights that has any employee following the publication in the Gazette of the Republic presidential decree approving the legal system and social protection of this fringe group of society. Then we move to Swaziland, where the Observer says His Majesty King Mswati III thanked the Swazi nation for the contribution it has made towards seeing that peace was maintained and development took place in the kingdom since it got independence 48 years ago. Finally, in Lesotho, the Lesotho Times reports a long, drawn-out strike by National University of Lesotho students over delayed allowances by the National Manpower Development Secretariat yesterday seemed to be abating after some students were given the stipend. Time for a short commercial break. When we come back, Rene West will have more news. Don't go away.
The set is a film about an Indian man who falls in love with a white girl during apartheid and the struggles that they face in order to be together. The movie is set in the 1970s when interracial relationships were illegal.
You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in real life.
Take a journey of love with Mo and Pindi.
Take your life and put it in somebody's hands. And it's not a cowardly act to do.
We kind of knew that it is taking a risk having a relationship with anyone.
Fashion is a reflection of beauty in clothes.
What motivates me to be a designer is because I like fashion a lot.
Join your host Rufulo Mula for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news.
Welcome back. Let's shift our focus back to the news this morning. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa says no South African will suffer because they are residing in a local authority not controlled by the ANC. Ramaphosa was responding to a question directed to him in the National Chamber of Provinces yesterday. He also reaffirmed government's position that there is no nuclear agreement that has been signed.
The dethroning of ANC mayors in some municipalities and major metros seems to be of grave concern. Members wanted to know whether or not government's programs would be affected. Ramaphosa says the ANC will not punish those metros by denying them budgets. This would be unconstitutional.
The law compels all the spheres of government to collaborate in the delivery of services. The three spheres of government exist in a unitary South Africa and not in a federal South Africa. This is not part of the country there is no part of the country rather that is not the responsibility of the national government.
He also dismissed concerns that Nuclear deal has been signed, but said government was consulting relevant stakeholders to ensure a deal would be affordable, sustainable and transparent when a decision is finally made. Montlengene Dipoku, SABC News.
The National Assembly has approved State Security Agency analyst Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane to become the new public protector. It's now up to President Jacob Zuma to decide whether she will replace Advocate Thuli Madonsela or not.
From an original list of 78 candidates, it was Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane who made the cut. The ad hoc committee chairperson Makosi Khoza, who recommended her to the National Assembly, says she was also the public's favorite.
This woman was phenomenal in many respects. She was the only candidate, as a matter of fact, who even remembered each question that was asked to her, and even the names of those people who asked the questions. And this is the candidate that was also supported by the members of the public.
According to the DA, Mkhwebane was not the best candidate and again expressed concern over her alleged links with the State Security Agency.
The ineluctable conclusion is, unfortunately, that Ms. Mkhwebane is on the payroll of the State Security Agency. This situation is problematic, and in the current climate in the country, where the justified view is held that President Jacob Zuma is abusing state departments, the SSA in particular.
The EFF commended Mkhwebane, saying it would lend its support to her.
She said herself that she is not politically affiliated and does not have any relations with any politicians. If that information is covered to be not true, the EFF will go for judicial review because we have appointed her on wrong information.
I accordingly reject in the strongest terms disparaging comments on her character which have been posted by the DA on the social media.
Yeah, we are positive that the President will indeed sign her in as a new public protector of the Republic.
Not only did she emerge as one of the top candidates during the interview, Advocate Mkhwebane, with her experience, also worked as a senior investigator in the Office of the Public Protector for 6 years.
Let's be honest, there are certain concerns. But it's difficult at this stage to say that those concerns should override the other reality.
COPE will abstain from the recommendation that Advocate Mkhwebane be appointed as the new public protector.
Being a public protector is not a child's play. This woman seems to be a woman who can work with the ordinary people with ease.
If it is true that years ago Advocate Mkhwebane worked for state security, then she misled Parliament. And of course there can be recourse to the courts. But at this stage we would like to give her the benefit of the doubt. She had an excellent interview and is an exceptional and outstanding candidate.
We are glad to see another capable African woman filling in the shoes of another capable African woman, so as to continue to dispel the notion that the Africans are inferior.
The APC stands to support the recommendation for the appointment of Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane for appointment as public protector.
Advocate Mkhwebane, as a candidate, has proved to be fit and proper, and she has complied with the fit and properness in terms of the legislation, the prescribed legislation.
Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Meanwhile, the outgoing public protector, Advocate Thuli Madonsela, has been awarded with the Truth and Justice Award in Pretoria last night. The Law Society of South Africa honoured Madonsela with its inaugural award for elevating the status of her office and for being fearless. Madonsela urged her likely successor to be guided by the Constitution and rule of law.
The simple advice is stick to the purpose of the office as defined in the Constitution, which is to protect the public and nobody else, to investigate and to report all forms of improper conduct in state affairs and take appropriate remedial action. And the second advice is always take the team on board. These are men and women who know what they're doing. Ultimately, you have responsibility because you have the title, but don't sit in a little corner and make the decisions. Take the team on board, listen to everyone, And when a decision is made, it should have been influenced by a debate that is marked by professionalism, that is marked by being purpose-driven and committed to the mandate.
Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu is recovering well in a Cape Town hospital after undergoing a minor operation yesterday. His wife Leah says the surgery to treat a recurring infection was successful. Tutu has battled with the infection since June last year. He had admitted himself to hospital 2 weeks ago. Leah Tutu has commended medical staff for their professionalism and excellent care. She's also thanked the public for their messages of support and prayers. Tutu was said to be in high spirits following the procedure. Moving further afield, Amnesty International has called on Zimbabwe authorities to respect the latest court ruling and to allow public demonstrations. This after a high court overturned a police ban on anti-government protests in the Harare city centre. Police have cracked down on recent protests calling for political reforms and for President Robert Mugabe to step down. Over the weekend, the veteran leader warned judges against allowing opposition marches to go ahead, describing such permission as reckless. Lawyer and leader of People's Democratic Party, who challenged the police order, Tendai Biti, has welcomed the latest ruling. Well, that's all your news for this hour, but Kendall is standing by with your sports news.
Thank you very much, Renee, and good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today. Now, first story is that Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee has made 4 changes to starting 15 to face Australia in Brisbane on Saturday. Francois Hoogaard is back at wing, Jesse Kriel and Juan de Jong are the new centre pairing, and Lawrence Adrianse starts at tight head prop. The bench sees a 6-2 forwards-backs split, with Franco Mostert and Trevor Nyakane the new additions.
Local media in Australia pointed to the Wallabies line-out as just one of their problems in their recent struggles. They have lost 6 games in a row since reaching the World Cup final last year. But in the most recent test against New Zealand, there was already an improvement in that specific set piece. Beside the line-out, it will be a physical encounter, and Welsh referee Nigel Owens might have his hands full as the letter of the law will be tested.
Yeah, there's always, I think, a bit of that in a game between South Africa and Australia. It's always it's a big game for us, and it's a personal thing for us. So I think there will be a bit of off-the-ball stuff from them. We'll definitely won't stand back in that department, and we'll stand up. And yeah.
The match kicks off at midday South African time on Saturday. Harry Wollivier, SABC News.
Now, if you've just joined us, just a reminder, you're watching Newsroom, and I'm Kendall Makhamate. Our next top story is about Mamelodi Sundowns, where the coach, Peter Msimani, and his players say they're ready to soldier on. This despite the heavy schedule facing them. Sundowns, who are currently competing on 3 fronts, are to play more than 6 matches this month. But the league will be forced to reschedule some of the matches due to a clash of fixtures.
Mamelodi Sundowns are the only South African club still competing in the CAF interclub competitions. The Brazilians have reached the semi-finals of the CAF Champions League. The Absa Premiership defending champions are also in the semi-finals of the MTN 8 on the domestic front. They'll be taking on Chippa United in the first leg of the MTN 8 semi-final on Sunday. Sundowns' second leg encounter has been moved to Wednesday the 21st due to a clash with their Champions League tie against Zesco United next weekend.
You're traveling to Chippa, the next thing in 1.5 days you must be in Maritzburg, in 1.5 days you must be in Dola. It's unbelievable, but it's the program that is put for us, and we have to do with it because what are you going to do? You're not going to play, so you have to play.
The Brazilians were supposed to play Platinum Stars in the league encounter on the 21st, but will instead face Chippa United in the second leg of the MTN 8 on that day. Sfiso Ramara, SABC News, Midrand.
Now, another news that's actually been trending this whole morning. Title favourite and second seed Andy Murray of Britain is out of the US Open tennis tournament in New York. 6th seed Kei Nishikori of Japan stunned the Wimbledon champion and Olympic gold medalist in 5 sets in their epic quarter-final clash.
Nishikori had a poor start.
losing his serve twice as Murray quickly bagged the first set 6-1. Although the Scotsman enjoyed an early break of serve in the second, Nishikori pulled himself together and broke the Murray serve twice to clinch the second 6-4. The world number 2 won the third, but seemed to lose his rhythm after rain forced the roof closure and the stadium's sound system interrupted a break point in the fourth. Nishikori went on to win the next 2 sets to book his place in the semi-finals, while Murray made his earliest exit in a Grand Slam this year.
Kei Nishikori, site of his greatest major triumph, getting to the final here 2 years ago, back to the semi-finals once more.
It was a really difficult match. I didn't quite start well and lost 6-1, and I felt it was really quick and I was lashing a little bit and missing too many unforced serves, but after lane delay I think I tried to change a little bit my tennis and start working a little better. I started getting my rhythm back.
Obviously, would have loved to have won, but I've had a good run the last few months, and you can't win every match, and it's obviously a shame. I would have loved to have gone further, but it wasn't to be today.
Nishikori will face third seed Stanislas Wawrinka of Switzerland in the last 4. The clash was briefly halted as Wawrinka prepared to serve for the match, and El Potro's fans loudly cheered on the emotional Argentine, who came into the tournament as the world number 142.
Your fans from your country staying this late, loving you this much, your journey.
Wawrinka prevailed, winning in 4 sets as the match continued into the early hours of the morning.
It's so late, and was an amazing match again for me. Even if it was 4 sets, was one of my toughest match mentally and physically against Ron Martin. He's an incredible player, and I'm really happy to have won that match.
Meanwhile, top-seeded American Serena Williams remains on course for yet another New York final. Williams dug deep to beat 5th-seed Simona Halep of Romania in 3 sets. The American will face 10th-seeded Czech Karolina Pliskova in the last 4. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
And I felt like I kind of lost my rhythm a little bit in the second set, and also Simona started playing really well. She kept going for shots, and she did what she needed to do, but I knew if I wanted to win this, I had to step it up in the third set.
How frustrating was it for you to have all those break points in the second set and not convert?
I wasn't very happy about that, but I tried not to let that get me down. I tried to stay positive, and I knew that if I did, I could just stay in the match.
Meanwhile, a first-round match at the US Open is being investigated after irregular betting patterns were reported. Now, there was a match alert that was sent to the sports anti-corruption body, the Tennis Integrity Unit, following the clash between 15th-seeded Swiss Timea Bashinsky and Russian Vitalia Diachenko. Details such as amounts and outcomes gambled on were not immediately clear. Bashinsky, the heavy favorite in the match, defeated Diachenko in straight sets, 6-1, 6-1. The TIU has, however, emphasized that an alert on its own is not evidence of match fixing. And in other stories, the 15th edition of the Paralympics is officially underway. The opening ceremony marked the start of 11 days of competition for 4,300 athletes with disabilities. The loudest applause was reserved during the Parade of the Nations for the host, Brazil. Caught in political and economic crises, Rio 2016 organizers have skimped as far as they can on food, transport and accommodation. The run-up to the Games was also overshadowed by slow ticket sales. The carnival atmosphere couldn't hide these challenges when newly sworn-in President Michel Temer was booed just days after taking over from bitter rival Dilma Rousseff. South Africa have a contingent of 45 athletes competing in 10 different codes. China will have its biggest ever team of 308 athletes in Rio, looking to beat their 95 gold medals from London when they top the table for the 3rd straight Paralympics. Tiger Woods has announced that he hopes to make his competitive return to golf next month, beginning with the PGA Tour's Safeway Open in Napa, California, after spending more than a year on the sidelines. The 14-times major winner also said, depending on his continued progress and recovery, that he intends to compete at the Turkish Airlines Open in November and the Tiger Woods Foundation Hero World Challenge in December. Woods has not played competitive golf since the Wyndham Championship in late August 2015 and has been recovering from multiple back surgeries. The Safeway Open, the season opening event on the 2016-2017 PGA Tour, will be played from the 13th to the 16th of October. This at Silverado Resort and Spa in Napa. Woods missed all 4 majors in the calendar year for the first time in 2016 and made just 11 tournament appearances in 2015. Since the end of 2013, the former world number 1 has competed in only 18 events on the PGA Tour while being blighted by injuries and poor form, recording just 1 top 10 during that period, along with 6 missed cuts and 3 withdrawals. The greatest player of his generation and arguably of all time, Woods has not won a tournament anywhere since the 2013 WGC Bridgestone Invitational, and his title drought in the major championships dates back to the 2008 US Open. As 79 times winner on the PGA Tour, he was world number 1 for a record total of 683 weeks. But his form has slipped dramatically in recent years due to injuries and the mastering of a new swing, while his ranking has plummeted to a mind-boggling 711th after his long spell on the sidelines. Now, almost a month after his heroics at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, South Africa's favorite sporting son, Wade van Niekerk, is back on South African soil. Van Niekerk, along with his coach Ans Botha and sprinter Akani Simbine, landed at OR Tambo International Airport in Gauteng.
Escorted through international arrivals by the police and private security guards, the 400-meter gold medalist and world record holder had to navigate a media scrum as well as throngs of his adoring fans. Coupled with a welcome deserving of his sensational performance in Rio, Van Niekerk also got to enjoy the perks of being an elite athlete and was presented with a brand new sports car.
I mean, I'm really grateful and thankful for all the bonuses that came with it. I'm really see it as a great blessing, and I'm really honored to be able to represent our country in a positive light out there in the international stages.
The 24-year-old's feat at the Olympics has no doubt inspired many young aspiring track athletes the world over. But none more than some pupils from a Pretoria high school whose track team is coached by former South African sprinter Geraldine Pillay.
I know that seeing him in person and being here at the airport today will just inspire them more, and hopefully when they go back to school they'll be able to inspire more kids, not just at our school but also in their communities.
A world champion, an Olympic gold medalist and a world record holder in one season, Van Niekerk has certainly earned his time off. Samantha Mari, SABC News, Kempton Park.
A conscious move from being a street kid to being a barrister of note.
Keep on praying for me to make a better life.
A creative application of the mind on an essential need, water in wheelbarrow containers.
How about if we were to come up with an idea of an enclosed container that sits on top of the frame of a wheelbarrow?
With the sharing of resources, a boy with Russell-Silver syndrome receives medication.
The fact that you just said to me, well, you're covered for next month, that's amazing.
So that's the medication.
For more inspiring stories, stay tuned to Bupilong every Friday.
The Goodman Gallery is celebrating 50 years promoting art from all sectors of life.
Actively involved in social and political life of South Africa, and we really have been. It's been a fascinating place to be and to watch.
Your personal style is synonymous to your signature statement.
Style is unique. It is a representation of you, your personality, the things you like. It speaks on your behalf, and it just represents the kind of person that you are, your uniqueness.
It's hilarious, you know, apart from anything else. It's the satire, the sort of commentary on what we kind of take for granted as we exist in daily life.
Vote for Wonder Boy with your heart. Vote for Wonder Boy with your heart and run at cinemas nationwide.
For your weekly dose of arts and entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
Hypertension is the condition where the blood pressure
the pressure in the blood vessels, it goes up.
We often come out at the top of the ladder having the worst numbers. And I think that's because we almost have what I can call a perfect storm of high blood pressure risk factors.
If you are diagnosed with hypertension, you just have to continue taking the medication for the rest of the life.
Because we try and reintegrate them and we try and retrain their abilities to be part of social society.
We do a lot of work trying to educate people, trying to encourage and motivate people to lead a healthy lifestyle. So what a healthy lifestyle means from a blood pressure point of view is obviously the more active you are and the better your heart is, the more fit your heart is, and the better condition your blood vessels are.
Catch Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10 with Dr. Sillo Mutawo.
Now this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refil Wemwilo.
I'm Dr. Sillo Mutawo, and this is Health Talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumila Matez.
What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel.
It's 1100 hours Central African time on this Thursday, the 8th of September. This is the final hour on the Newsroom. Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Veth. Now, our focus today has been on the Reed Dance. That's the annual Reed Dance taking place in KwaZulu-Natal this weekend.
Now, a question I proposed to you this morning is, how do you view the annual Reed Dance ceremony? I'd like to get your thoughts on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. State Security Agency analyst Busisiwe Mkabane has been approved by the National Assembly to become the new public protector, with only the DA voting against her. The University of KwaZulu-Natal's SRC says they'll be doing everything in their power to bring the people to book who set fires on campuses after the past 2 days. And the Zulu Royal House says all preparations are in place for this year's Reed Dance at Imokeni Palace at Nongoma in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news with Renee, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Thank you very much, Elvis, and good morning to you as well as Renee. Good morning to you if you've just joined us, Kendall Makamate, and this is what's coming up in the sports today. Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee making 4 key changes to his starting 15 to face Australia in the Rugby Championship this coming Saturday. And the 2016 Paralympic Games kick off with the opening ceremony at Rio de Janeiro's famous Maracanã Stadium.
And there you go.
Serena Williams moves a step closer to making history again as she edges Romanian Simona Halep in 3 sets at the US Open. All this as allegations of irregular betting surface. We're bringing you all of this as well as some analysis on the box squad, the box team to face Australia over the weekend, all at about 11:35 or so. For now, it's back to Renee, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. The University of KwaZulu-Natal's SRC says they will be doing everything in their power to ensure that those responsible for setting fire to public property on campus grounds will face the full might of the law. The institution says the damage caused amounts to tens of millions of rands.
Students have been demanding a no-fee increment for next year. The protests have turned violent and property worth millions destroyed. Remains visible on all campuses.
We have lost millions of rands in the buildings that have been torched in the past 2 weeks. So where are we going to get the money?
Meanwhile, the situation remained calm on all campuses today. The damage during last night's fire still cordoned off. Students with disabilities whose residence was also torched have gone home. Student leaders condemn the destruction.
What they're doing is not only affecting us, the current students, it's affecting students that are coming. The students that we are fighting for, so that they can get the fruits.
The disruption has serious implications for many students. The university management says 51 students have been arrested since the unrest began. All of those arrested are in custody. Police say they will continue to maintain a strong presence at all university campuses. Simpiwe Makanya, SABC News, Durban.
Meanwhile, ANC Youth League has written an open letter to Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande demanding that he urgently implement a zero-fee increase for tertiary institutions. League Secretary General Njabulo Nzuza says he is writing the letter because private meetings they've had with Nzimande are not bearing fruit. Recent student protests have been marred by the torching of buildings and cars at the University of KwaZulu-Natal and disruptions of free education inquiry in Cape Town this week. The League says any fee increment will not be acceptable and should not even be considered or spoken about. The League also says free education for the poor is an ANC policy and is not up for debate but should be urgently implemented. They also want Nzimande to reduce meetings with vice-chancellors and spend more time with students. It threatens not to tolerate what it calls tortoise velocity on these issues. The National Assembly has approved State Security Agency analyst Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane to become the next public protector. It's now up to President Jacob Zuma to decide whether she will replace Advocate Thuli Madonsela or not.
An original list of 78 candidates, it was Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane who made the cut. The ad hoc committee chairperson Makosi Khoza, who recommended her to the National Assembly, says she was also the public's favorite.
This woman was phenomenal in many respects. She was the only candidate, as a matter of fact, who even remembered each question that was asked to her, and even the names of those people who asked the questions. And this is the candidate that was also supported by the members of the public.
According to the DA, Mkhwebane was not the best candidate and again expressed concern over her alleged links with the State Security Agency.
The ineluctable conclusion is, unfortunately, that Ms. Mkhwebane is on the payroll of the State Security Agency. This situation is problematic. And in the current climate in the country, where the justified view is held that President Jacob Zuma is abusing state departments, the SSA in particular.
The EFF commended Mkhwebane, saying it would lend its support to her.
She said herself that she is not politically affiliated and does not have any relations with any politicians. If that information is covered to be not true, the EFF will go for judicial review because we have appointed her on wrong information.
I accordingly reject in the strongest terms disparaging comments on her character which have been posted by the DA on the social media.
Yeah, we are positive that the President will indeed sign her in as a new public protector of the Republic.
Not only did she emerge as one of the top candidates during the interview, Advocate Mkhwebane, with her experience, also worked as a senior investigator in the Office of the Public Protector for 6 years.
Let's be honest, there are certain concerns, but it's difficult at this stage to say that those concerns should override the other reality.
COPE will abstain from the recommendation that Advocate Mkhwebane be appointed as the new public protector.
Being a public protector is not a child's play. This woman seems to be a woman who can work with the ordinary people with ease.
If it is true that years ago Advocate Mkhwebane worked for state security, then she misled Parliament. And of course there can be recourse to the courts. But at this stage we would like to give her the benefit of the doubt. She had an excellent interview and is an exceptional and outstanding candidate.
We are glad to see another capable African woman
filling in the shoes of another capable African woman so as to continue to dispel the notion that the Africans are inferior.
The APC stands to support the recommendation for the appointment of Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane for appointment as public protector.
Advocate Mkhwebane as a candidate has proved to be fit and proper, and she has complied with the fit and properness in terms of the legislation, the prescribed legislation.
Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Meanwhile, the outgoing public protector, Advocate Thuli Madonsela, has been awarded with the Truth and Justice Award in Pretoria last night. The Law Society of South Africa honoured Madonsela with its inaugural award for elevating the status of her office and for being fearless. Madonsela urged her likely successor to be guided by the Constitution and the rule of law.
The simple advice is stick to the purpose of the office as defined in the Constitution, which is to protect the public and nobody else, to investigate and to report all forms of improper conduct in state affairs and take appropriate remedial action. Now, the second advice is always take the team on board. These are men and women who know what they're doing. Ultimately, you have responsibility because you have the title, but don't sit in a little corner and make the decisions. Take the team on board, listen to everyone, and when a decision is made, it should have been influenced by a debate that is marked by professionalism, that is marked by being purpose-driven and committed to the mandate.
Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu is recovering well in a Cape Town hospital after undergoing a minor operation yesterday. His wife, Leah, says surgery to treat a recurring infection was successful. Tutu has battled with the infection since June last year. He had admitted himself to hospital 2 weeks ago. Leah Tutu has commended medical staff for their professionalism and excellent care. She's also thanked the public for their messages of support and prayers. Tutu was said to be in high spirits following the procedure. Trade union Nahawu in Parliament plan to go on a full-blown strike from today. This is in response to threats by Parliament to deduct the salaries of staff members who were on strike before the end of last year. Nahawu chairperson in Parliament, Stembiso Tembe, confirmed that the Secretary to Parliament, Gengezi Mgidlana, sent a memorandum saying money should be deducted from their salaries. This is in accordance with the no work, no pay policy. Meanwhile, Parliament spokesperson Luzuku Jacobs says Parliament has not received any formal notification of the planned action by Nahawu. Jacobs has emphasized that parliamentary services are regarded as essential services and any strike would be regarded as illegal. Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan says South Africa must present a united front in order to survive a credit rating downgrade, while economists warn that ratings agencies are keeping a close eye on the country's policies and political events.
Ratings agencies are watching the country's economic developments. Recent events such as the Hawks investigating Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and comments made by Mineral Resources Minister Mosebenzi Zwane are not going unnoticed by them. These events have raised concerns about whether South Africa's investment grade will survive the next ratings review in December. Last year, Standard & Poor's downgraded South Africa's outlook to negative.
They have wagged their fingers at South Africa, saying if you don't improve the GDP outlook for the country, the management of your state-owned enterprises, your SOEs, and then, of course, help to elevate policy certainty, then, of course, that rating, which is currently investment grade, might very well go to sub-investment grade, which we all know as junk.
South Africa avoided a technical recession in the second quarter. Answering questions in Parliament, Minister Gordhan says the latest GDP figures indicate a recession is unlikely.
Whilst we survived, inverted commas, the first round of ratings, we are now about to enter the second round of ratings exercises. The first of the ratings agencies visits us at the end of September, the second sometime in November, and the third early in December. And again, we will be endeavouring as government to work with social partners and it's a conversation that we need to have within this chamber as well. How do we present a united national interest front which will ensure that we can stave off a ratings downgrade again?
Gordon warns that for the country's economy to grow, government needs to create a stable economic environment. Mbalenhle Mthethwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Zulu Royal House says all preparations are in place for this year's Nkosi Womklanga, or the Reed Dance, at Enyokeni Palace at Nongoma in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Each year, the highly anticipated event is attended by thousands of girls from various parts of the continent. The young women will present their reeds to Zulu King Goodwill Zwelithini this weekend. The Royal House spokesperson, Prince Thulani Zulu, says various workshops will be held to educate the young women about careers available to them. He also reassured parents that enough police will be deployed to ensure the safety of the maidens. Prince Zulu says they are aware that people who have an intention of bringing alcohol. He said alcohol is not permitted and authorities will be ensuring the safety of the maidens and the spectators. The lawbreakers will be prosecuted. The 3-day program includes career expos that will expose our girls to possible career paths.
What actually this Reed Dance is all about, it's bringing up our young girls how to conduct themselves and what they should anticipate when they're growing up, and also to give them information so that they protect themselves from other diseases that they can incur if they don't protect themselves and behave as young girls until such time that they are able to have a partner and get engaged in other activities that expose them to be married and be having their family and bring up their children in a proper manner, and also to tell them what are the values that are expected to a young girl and what standard is expected to a young girl to grow up and be able to face their life as they grow up. I believe that, yes, they have a right, but we also encourage that they are not forced. It's voluntarily. All girls that comes to Reed Dance have done that voluntarily, not being forced to participate. But what we are saying that as MEC for Arts and Culture, I believe that if we go back and look at our cultures and learn the good things that our cultures has been preserving, where you bring up a young girl to be proud of herself, to have high self-esteem, not to be treated as a minor or something that is not important.
We'll be back with more news shortly. Elvis has a little bit more for you.
Thank you, Renee. And we stay in KwaZulu-Natal. Is in Ngoleni local municipality have been new rating August 2016. The municipality
Hypertension is the condition where the blood pressure, the pressure in the blood vessels, it goes up.
We often come out at the top of the ladder having the worst numbers. And I think that's because we almost have what I can call a perfect storm of high blood pressure risk factors.
If you are diagnosed with hypertension, you just have to continue taking the medication for the rest of the life.
Because we try and reintegrate them and we try and retrain their abilities to be part of social society.
We do a lot of work trying to educate people, trying to encourage and motivate people to lead a healthy lifestyle. So what a healthy lifestyle means from a blood pressure point of view is obviously the more active you are and the better your heart is, the more fit your heart is and the better condition your blood vessels are.
Catch Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10 with Dr. Sillo Mutawu.
Welcome back. We apologize for the slight technical difficulties there. Let's go back to that story, a very interesting story. There is in Nkoleni local municipality and the Hibiscus Coast local municipality in the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal. One of the well-known parts of KwaZulu-Natal has been merged to form the new Nkoleni local municipality on the 3rd of August 2016. The municipality has its administrative seat in Port Shepstone and it covers an area of approximately 90 kilometers of pristine coastline, comprising 21 beaches and extends 30 kilometers inland, covering a vast rural area under the leadership of 6 tribal authorities. It is also the most concentrated economic hub within the Ugu district municipality in KwaZulu-Natal. In Durban, we are joined by the mayor of the Nkoleni local municipality, Councillor Nomusa Mqwebu. Councillor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning to you. Thank you for inviting me to this news day.
Now, first and foremost, Mayor, I would like to congratulate you. And it's a big piece of land that it covers 90 kilometers of coastline that you need to oversee. How's it now been since you've been elected, being in the driving seat for you?
Well, I must say I was grateful that my party said I must continue and make sure that I look at this big municipality which has the Izingolweni, former Izingolweni, and also former Hibiscus Coast municipality. And it is a really large municipality which needs us to work very hard to make sure that the community gets what they want from the government.
Now, in your new term, what are some of your priorities that you've outlined that you want to look forward to?
In my new term, I want to make sure that we have people who don't have electricity. We have a few areas which don't have electricity in our area. I think when we closed our term before elections, we had about 85% of people who have electricity. And this time, we want to make sure that everyone gets the electricity in the rural and also in town, those who need the electricity. And also want to look at our roads and make sure that we rehabilitate those which are finished. And also in the rural areas, make sure that we tar or conquer those which need us, because the roads are more important to everybody. You can't go anywhere if you don't have roads. And make sure also to look at our old infrastructure, which is aging now, and make sure that we look after them, because if you have an infrastructure, you must make sure that you paint, you rehabilitate, you do everything. And also we want to make sure that people who are who give us rates, they do make sure that they keep the promise, because the municipality we have, we depend on rates and also on grants to make sure that we really do our service delivery. Whilst doing that, make sure that we do go to our people and talk to them, hear them what they want, to make sure that we improve our service delivery.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's a bit.
And we are proud to say that. We are proud to say that we have done it. The truth remains that we didn't have protest. When people were starting to campaign for that, we go to people and listen and make sure that we do what they do. Mm-hmm. So we are going to continue doing that. I'm happy that we have merged with the Izingoleni and Hibiscus, both municipalities who have been doing well. As the Hibiscus Coast, we're doing well on the medium-large municipality. We even got some accolades which prove that we were really doing good. And also we got the clean audit to show that we are looking after the finance which are trust in our hands. And also the Nkoleni was doing the same. They were getting the accolades and also doing good as the small municipality.
Now, Councillor, I just want to check with you. You did say that there was no protest during elections, but what is going to be your approach going to prevent service delivery protests as we've seen in Boboi as well as Kgamalake in the past?
Yes, even that one of Boboi, I was part of that when we were going to the community. The community were really saying they wanted water. But I must say the aging of our pipes that made a problem that all of a sudden water was cut and community couldn't get water. And we made sure that we do what they want. Also in Kgamalake, it's the same thing. We went there to talk to them and people listen. If you usually go to people, as a mayor, there are imbizos where quarterly you must visit your people. Also, what councillors, monthly, they must visit their own people and talk to the people. People are there for service delivery, not only to listen to other things. They want service delivery.
Now, the South Coast is known for its beautiful coastline. I love that part of the country, by the way. I visit there often. But there must be some challenges, Mayor, that you need to overcome. And how are you also going to maintain the high standards of your blue flag beaches that we find in Margate, Ramsgate and Port Edward and so on?
Yes, it is a challenge that we have urban area and also the rural area. But we must make sure that we service both areas. Yes, we have blue flags, 7 blue flags in our towns, and the minister is just coming in October to give us other blue flags, and the whole South Africa will be there receiving the blue flags. We are very proud of our blue flags, and we are making sure that people get clean beaches and also safety when they go to those beaches.
Now, we also believe that you're the first municipality to take that bold step to introduce nude beaches in the Trafalgar and in Penjati Beach. How has that changed the outlook for the area, and how does the residents feel about it?
Well, I must start by saying that beach has been there for 20 years, and we didn't know as government that there was a nudist beach in Penjati until they wrote a letter to me and asked a permission to run this as a club. Then it was then the time when we said, let's go and visit this beach and see where it is, what is happening there. Then we went there. Why we went there? We wanted to see the real place where it is and what do they do. We asked them, what do they do? But you must know that in South Africa, our constitution allows everybody to be listened to by the government. That is why we went there. We know there are people who were saying no to this, but we said to them, let's hear what the people are saying, because they are a club. Even now, we have not yet given them the way, because we said we are still looking at the bylaws, whether it will give them the correct way of doing their thing as a club. But they are still going there. I understand in Easters they had a bus from Gauteng, which they went there. People tried to call the SAPS to arrest them. You can't arrest people when they are doing their own things, but you have to guide them correctly that you can't do ABC because we have bylaws within our government.
So you're still in the process of declaring that a public beach, because currently it's private, is that correct?
Yet it is private, and it is a very small area. I invite you one day when you come to Margate and invite me just to go and see this place. It's just a small place. It's not even a beach which usually people go to. It's just because people had nude beach.
No, I sincerely accept that invitation, Councillor. We'll go there together, and we probably have to take off our clothes, right?
Well, it will depend on the weather.
All right. That is the mayor from the newly elected mayor from Nkonyeni Local Municipality Council, Councillor Nomusa Mngwedi. Thank you so much, Councillor, for joining us.
Thank you very much, presenter.
That was
thank you.
Nomusa Mgwebu there from our Durban studios. And, well, there's my invitation. So I'll be trotting down to the South Coast soon without a piece of clothes on my body. But it's over to Renee to put some clothes on the news for you.
Oh, Elvis, I think you should behave. It's only Thursday. Well, continuing on the topic of that we were having a bit earlier today on female genital mutilation, that of course we were discussing a bit earlier today. But if you've just tuned in, now in Venda, in the northeast part of South Africa, another form of cultural practice has been mistaken for female genital mutilation. According to the Venda culture, 8 weeks or less after the birth of a child, Venda women undergo a traditional ceremony called matuso. Now, matuso is a process of cutting the vaginal flesh of a mother by a traditional healer. And Vendas also use the practices as an initiation for girls into womanhood. Now, earlier we spoke to anthropologist Dr. Fraser McNeil from the University of Pretoria, who has worked extensively in Venda.
It's very important that we spend some few minutes just discussing what the terms actually mean here. When you talk about female genital mutilation in the Venda culture, that's a very broad and quite a dangerous statement to make. There are two terms that you would want to be thinking of. The first one would be the process of mutuso, which has been widely stated recently as female genital mutilation. Actually, mutuso is not in any way female genital mutilation. Mutuso translates as vaccination, and it is a way in which a newborn child is bathed in a mixture of herbs and water, and that vaccination is to prevent the newborn child from being susceptible to biological and also to spiritual forces that could lead it into bad health. Now, if that doesn't work, and if a child, for example, fails to breastfeed or cries a lot or is shy, if it doesn't like to look at people in the eyes, then a healer will be called and the child may be diagnosed as having goni or gokonia. And the treatment for gokonia is sometimes involved with looking at the mother's genitalia and taking what we could call a swab from that, from small pimples on it. We call them gironda in Chivenda. Now, that swab from the mother's genitalia will be used to treat goni or gokonia. At no stage of this game does any kind of surgical process happen that could in any reasonable way be defined as genital mutilation.
So what is happening in the Venda, you are saying, is unlike what is happening in other countries, for instance, in Northern Africa, where actually the clitoris is removed in some countries.
Yes, absolutely. There's no evidence that clitoris is removed from women as a part of Venda culture. Now, if there are one or two traditional healers who at one stage possibly decided to take blood from genitalia to use that to treat gokonia, then that's a very isolated case. It is in no way common practice for anybody who would claim to be the Venda to practice female genital mutilation. This is not based in any evidence, and it's what we could possibly call a rumour.
Now, why then is there this veil of secrecy over this practice as it's happening in the Venda? Or can you clear this up with us? Is there no such thing?
Well, if you look at what mutuso actually is, it's a vaccination process to protect children against spiritual warfare. Now, it has been largely demonised, as a lot of traditional African beliefs have been, largely demonised by fundamentalist Christians, mostly Pentecostal Christians, who frame it as devil worship or somehow as an evil practice of witchcraft. So it becomes framed in this other discourse. Actually, what it's doing is trying to protect the child. Children are very vulnerable to biological and spiritual forces. And this is a way of trying to do. We mustn't fall into the trap of thinking that science and Christianity are the only ways of understanding the world. They are clearly not.
Or that they have all the answers. They clearly don't have many of the answers. But I want to talk about the practice of female genital mutilation, as we see in other parts of the world, which of course has many organizations up in arms, especially the UN. How do you view that, where the clitoris is removed within this practice? Do you feel there is a place for that kind of spirituality, if one can call it, in the world today?
No, I think anything that would force a woman or a man to do anything to their body against their will is clearly against their human rights and should be illegal.
And just to wrap up our conversation, in the Venda, what's happening there, these practices, you're very much in support of it, and you feel that this kind of thing that does no harm but protects a young child both spiritually and physically, it should be encouraged.
Well, I would ask you, instead of asking should it be encouraged, I would plead with you to understand what the process is. We mustn't be emotional about these things and make statements based on no evidence. Let's look at some ethnographic evidence, let's look at some anthropological evidence, and let's try and understand these processes. Mutuso is not female genital mutilation. Mutuso is about vaccinating a child against biological and spiritual forces to which it is vulnerable from its very early days. So we shouldn't have an emotional response to this without, first of all, understanding what these terms mean.
Well, that is one of the conversations we were having a bit earlier today on FGM. Now, we've also been speaking about the annual Reed Dance, which is taking place this weekend. And we want to know from you, what are your views on this Reed Dance? Are you participating? Would you like to participate? Send us your views at our Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, or on our Facebook page. Just look for SABC Newsroom. But now we'll take a break. Stay tuned. Kendall is ready for your sports news after this.
We tell you about Africa's social media and technology landscape.
21st century economies rely on technology to truly thrive.
We have quite a comprehensive portfolio of interventions in the tech entrepreneurship space.
And Africans are using tech and social media to solve the continent's unique challenges.
App Nigeria is an online marketplace.
Radio Vibe is a social media platform for radio music.
That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Now, this is Trends, of course, your one-stop serving of all that's juicy and trending in the world of entertainment and showbiz. My name, of course, is Refill Wemulov.
I'm Dr. Sello Mutaung, and this is our talk.
A very good morning and welcome to Media Monitor. I'm your host, Alicia Jolly.
My name is Dumila Matters.
William Mulabati.
My name is Mpo. What time is it? It's question time.
For your daily dose of current affairs, tune in to the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. I'm Kendall Makhamat and I've got your sports on Newsroom. Time hit just before 20 to 12. Now, title favourite and second seed Andy Murray of Britain is out of the US Open tennis tournament in New York. Sixth seed Kei Nishikori of Japan stunned the Wimbledon champion and Olympic gold medalist in 5 sets in their epic quarter-final clash.
Nishikori had a poor start, losing his serve twice as Murray quickly bagged the first set 6-1. Although the Scotsman enjoyed an early break of serve in the second, Nishikori pulled himself together and broke the Murray serve twice to clinch the second 6-4. The world number 2 won the third, but seemed to lose his rhythm after rain forced the roof closure and the stadium's sound system interrupted a breakpoint in the fourth. Nishikori went on to win the next 2 sets to book his place in the semi-finals, while Murray made his earliest exit in a Grand Slam this year.
Kei Nishikori, site of his greatest major triumph, getting to the final here 2 years ago, back to the semi-finals once more.
It was a really difficult match. I didn't quite start well and lost 6-1, and I felt it was really quick, and I was lashing a little bit and missing too many unforced errors. But after lane delay, I think I tried to change a little bit my tennis and start working a little better. I started getting my rhythm back.
Obviously, would have loved to have won, but I've had a good run the last few months, and you can't win every match, and it's obviously a shame. I would have loved to have gone further, but it wasn't to be today.
Nishikori will face third seed Stanislas Wawrinka of Switzerland in the last 4. The clash was briefly halted as Wawrinka prepared to serve for the match, and El Potro's fans loudly cheered on the emotional Argentine, who came into the tournament as the world number 142.
Your fans from your country staying this late, loving you this much, your journey.
Wawrinka prevailed, winning in 4 sets as the match continued into the early hours of the morning.
It's so late, and it was an amazing match again for me. Even if it was 4 sets, it was one of my toughest match mentally and physically against Ron Martin. He's an incredible player, and I'm really happy to have won that match.
Meanwhile, top-seeded American Serena Williams remains on course for yet another New York final. Williams dug deep to beat 5th-seed Simona Halep of Romania in 3 sets. The American will face 10th-seeded Czech Karolina Pliskova in the last 4. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Now, while all this was going on, a first-round match at the US Open is being investigated. This after irregular betting patterns were reported. A match alert was sent to the sport's anti-corruption body, the Tennis Integrity Unit, following the clash between 15th-seeded Swiss Timea Baczynski and Russian Vitalia Diachenko. Details such as amounts and outcomes gambled on were not immediately clear. Baczynski, the heavy favorite in the match, defeated Diachenko in straight sets, 6-1, 6-1. The TIU has, however, emphasized that an alert on its own is not evidence of match fixing. And the 15th edition of the Paralympics is officially underway. The opening ceremony marked the start of 11 days of competition for 4,300 athletes with disabilities. The loudest applause was reserved for the hosts, Brazil. Caught in political and economic crises, Rio 2016 organizers have skimped as far as they can on food, transport and accommodation. The run-up to the Games was also overshadowed by slow ticket sales. The carnival atmosphere could not hide these challenges when newly sworn-in President Michel Temer was booed just days after taking over from bitter rival Dilma Rousseff. South Africa have a contingent of 45 athletes competing in 10 different codes. China will have its biggest ever team of 308 athletes in Rio, looking to beat their 95 gold medals from London when they top the medal table for the 3rd straight Olympics. And Alistair Coetzee announced a team to take on Australia this weekend in Brisbane in the Rugby Championship. Making 4 key changes, his choices have raised 1 or 2 eyebrows. Sports commentator Jody Hendricks was on Sports Live last night speaking to Simon Burke. He started by saying what jumped out at him with the selections.
After the loss to Argentina about 2 weeks ago, we were always expecting a couple of changes. Were they the right ones? I have a couple of question marks. Like you mentioned, the centre pairing of De Allende and Mapu was clearly not working, and I'm not surprised. I am surprised at the combination that is gone with those Juan de Jong and Jesse Kriel, because they haven't played together, so they also a new centre pairing, and against a team like Australia, you don't want to experiment too much. I maybe would have gone with De Allende and Jesse Kriel, who performed so well at the World Cup last year for South Africa when Jean de Villiers got injured. So they're at least familiar with each other. That's the one surprise. The other surprise I'd have gone with Jaco Kriel. He's been playing really well off the bench. Right. I'm surprised he's not in the starting lineup. I maybe would have given Francois lower rest. And then Francois Hougaard, I think Loazio Mvovo can be really unlucky. Hougaard's been playing sevens rugby, and also he's been playing in England. scrum half, and he's been playing really well. I think he was in May. He was the English player of the month. So he's been playing at scrum half all season. Suddenly he's going to come into wing, and you can be sure that the Aussies will be testing him.
Well, let's talk about guys like Francois Hougaard and Jesse Creel. They seem to be shunted all over the back line. At test level, is this the best thing to do for a player? Given that both of them are still trying to establish themselves in the Springbok team, by no means does either of these players have the Springbok jersey in their hands.
Well, let's start with Francois Hougaard. The reason he didn't go to the World Cup is because he was playing wing, and by the time the team was selected, he was by far not the best wing in South Africa. He was maybe one of the best scrum halves, but he didn't play scrum, so they couldn't select him. So I think, the guys just want to play for the Springboks, so I'm sure they'll play anywhere, but you really want the best guy in the best position. Jesse Creel also, utility back, can play a fullback and centre. Most of his international experience, by the way, at centre. So I think maybe that's why Alistair went with him as well, with Juan de Jong at number 12.
And Francois Hougaard's going to have his work cut out for him because there is no cover on the bench ostensibly for Faf de Klerk. So it's obvious that Hougaard, if he gets subbed during the match, which he probably won't be, but he might be shunted to scrum off at some point in the match.
And that's why I was so surprised with the 6-2 split on the bench. I thought, maybe a 5-3 split would have been worked better. So it clearly shows that Francois Hougaard is going to have to fulfill a dual role. How good will he be? That will be determined on Saturday, because if he has a good game at wing and all of a sudden Faf de Klerk gets injured, he's going to have to fill in and change his whole game plan, and I think that might be to the detriment of the team.
It was obvious from the Argentina match that changes needed to come, but are these the changes that we expected, or are these the changes, in your opinion, that were needed?
Well, I think we needed something needed to happen at centre. The others, I'm quite a bit surprised that I thought Vincent Koch had a good game against Argentina. He's not even in the match 23. Like I said, I maybe would have gone with Jaco Creel, to get us over the advantage line. He's a very big physical player, give Francois a lower rest. And then in the back line, Elton Jantjies gets another go. He's been under a lot of pressure. It's going to be interesting to see the goal kicking, because that's what cost us the game against Argentina. Who's going to do the goal kicking for South Africa? Will it be Goosen at fullback, or will they entrust Jantjies again?
Right. My reading of the Juan de Jong situation is that he's going to assist Elton, and the ball is going to get out to the back line and to the wings. Is this a correct reading of the situation? And are we being too harsh on Elton? Do we not need to give a fly-half more time?
That's a very good question. How long do you want to settle at test level? He's had 6 games. I think you need to grab every opportunity, because the queue just gets longer and longer behind you. The De Jong Jantjies combination might work. They've played together a couple of years ago at the Stormers, but they haven't played together that much at international level, I don't think, ever. So it's going to be interesting to see the game plan. Obviously, there was a lot of criticisms against the Allender because he couldn't get over the advantage line, that bash-up ball, or get the ball out to Mapu. So it's going to be interesting to see if De Jong will be able to fulfill that role, because I know that's what Alistair wants, especially from his number 12. Then also you have a new centre at number 13, Jesse Creel. How is he going to fit into that combination? Because he's also going to have to be a part of that. And then also a player that we haven't mentioned, who's been settling slowly but surely at number 15, was Johan Goosen. We spoke about Elton settling at number 10. Goosen's had a good game, and he gets to retain the number 15 jersey again, and it also gives you that left-right combination with a boot.
Right, well, we've got 2 players who dropped outright from the match day 23, and that's Damian Delendi and Vincent Koch. Is this Alistair Coetzee showing and sending a message to the players that, I'm in charge, and if you guys are wavering, you're out?
Yeah, like I said, I'm a bit surprised at the Koch decision. I'm not a big fan of Lauren Adriaanse. I don't think he had a big Super Rugby season to justify his inclusion, let alone in the starting lineup. I was a bit skeptical about him being in the squad even. The Allender, there was a lot of pressure on him from that first game against Ireland. A lot of people said, he's not in the form that he was at the World Cup last year for the Springboks. So he was always under fire, and unfortunately for him, it only got worse as the series against Ireland went on. The first 2 games against Argentina, he was exposed a few times, and I think, Alistair would have been, let's go say, stupid if he had to stick with the Allender, because clearly he wasn't in the form that he was in last year. So that's justified. But to go with another untested combination at this stage of the season, 6 games in, you know, also you're asking for a lot.
Right, well, one of the things that does concern me now is with Vincent Koch being dropped, Lawrence coming in, but do we have a solid tight head prop? Because that's been a key for the Springboks since Yanni left.
Adrian's actually, or Lawrence Adrianse is actually the 4th choice tight head prop coming in. We had Frans Malherbe injured, Trevor Inyekani, Vincent Koch last week. So Lawrence comes in as the 4th, and that's not the kind of thing that you want as a coach, as your first season in charge. You want that stability and you want that continuity. So it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts. He's a good scrummager. He's a very strong guy. The criticism I have against him is his overall play. I think he stands, you know, too many penalties let go to the opposition. So, you know, they're going to have to, the scrums are going to be an important facet for the Springboks, because they're going to have to build the momentum for the backs.
Well, here we see, okay, it went, but there's the forward pack. So Lawrence Adrian, so he's the only change into the forwards. Is it a settled forward pack, or were there places on the line there as well?
Yeah,
I'm thinking maybe around number 6, perhaps.
Yeah, Jaco Kriel definitely can feel unlucky, but I'm sure he'll get his opportunity in the last 20 minutes. Then also Lode Jager. You know, he's not in the form that he was in last year when he was named South African Rugby Player of the Year. Also the combination of Itzebeth and Pieter Stef de Tooy was on the bench. They've played together all season for the Stormers, so they know each other. And then also, you know, we spoke about the 6-2 split. Also Franco Mostert, another lock. So that probably means that Pieter Stef will come in as a loose forward by all means.
Are we not doing Pieter Stef de Tooy a disservice by using him as an impact player? Surely he's better than that.
Yeah, that's the point I tried to make earlier. Lode Jager plays a lot better off the bench. He's been struggling when he's been in the starting 15, and I think Alistair wants to give him as much game time because he's a quality player to settle, to get that form back. But I think at the current moment, it's a bit Pieter Stef de Tooy combination will work better and play Lode off the bench.
And there we go. There's the replacements. Now, I don't. Nothing jumps out at me as a tight head prop cover, but I'm assuming Trevor Nyakani is that man. Is he up to that job?
Remember, he's also coming, Simon, he's coming back from an injury, so it will be interesting to see, does he get 30 minutes, does he get 20 minutes, does he get 10 minutes? Stephen Kutsoff will probably start at loose head. So Trevor Nyakani, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, and also remember, the scrums is an important facet for the Springboks. So in the last 20 minutes, if it's a tight game, you don't want your subs coming on and, you know, disgruntling the scrum and not making it work and putting your opposition, letting them get the better of you.
Well, there you have it. That's it. We're done. Thanks very much for staying with us. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Right now, it's up time for Midday Report, the top of the hour. Until tomorrow, this is Cindy.